bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game.
Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
All right, welcome, Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Today's Tuesday, October 17th, 290 days into the new year, just 75 days left. That's right, and we are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? Fantastic day here. It's going to be a fantastic night. Get ready because we have very special guest with us tonight. Live from Cairo, Egypt, Josh Gates of Expedition Unknown. He's here to talk about the latest 4 episodes of Expedition Unknown called Hunt for Extraterrestrials. Yeah, man. Tomorrow night, Amelia Earhart is here to give us her practical guide to synchronicity. That's tomorrow night. Really looking forward to that, by the way. Thursday night is another Fader night with John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom live. The call-in numbers, if we get around to it tonight, are 323-825-5045 or 323-275-9695. We'll see how that goes. The thing is, with Josh does it all. And now that he is officially on the hunt for extraterrestrials, now we have, he's always out there doing, pirate treasure or ghost or, scuba diving in the jungle, machetes. He's in Cairo, Egypt now. We'll find out what he's doing out there tonight. I can go anywhere with Josh. And I was talking to him right before the show tonight. I said, dude, man, I know, it's hunt for extraterrestrials, but I got a lot of other stuff. And he said, man, let's do it. Let's do it. He is totally excited to be here. So we'll get to Josh here in just a few short minutes, but very excited to have, that kind of open-ended conversation because this show goes everywhere. I'm not focused on one thing, just the paranormal or life after death or crystals, E.T., Lost History, Egypt, here, American history and lost history and North and South and Central America. There's so many zones, that we can go into that I'm interested in. Well, that's what Josh does on Expedition Unknown. You never really know, what's going to happen on one of those shows. And he's pretty funny when he does it too as well. So Josh Gates tonight. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Simple. Come and hang out with us over in the Sandbox. Man, look at this thing click by right now. You guys jacked? You guys excited? Yeah, looks like it. All right. Come and hang out with us. Hashtag F2B is the Sandbox on Twitter. And also we have 2 chat rooms. We have the Spreaker chat room and we have the KGRA, the Planet, their chat room. So come over and hang out with us, okay? Everything is interactive and live right in front of me. Now, you can also like us on Facebook. The Jimmy Church Radio page is right there, the Fade to Black page. And, of course, YouTube. Everything is Fade to Black or Jimmy Church Radio. And it's easy to go and follow, like, and subscribe. Okay. Any questions or comments during the show tonight or any other night, please use hashtag F2BQ on Twitter. We do use TweetDeck. That's what we do. And, you know, the beautiful thing with TweetDeck, and every time I bring it up, think about this, okay? I'm doing a show. Right now, if you're on the bunker cam and you're watching me, you can see that I'm doing things, right? I'm doing things. You know, this is, you know, I'm here in the bunker and got things going on. I can't look at Twitter and click notifications or click next or click this. No. TweetDeck runs automatically, man. I love it, right? It's just bip, 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 bip. Just catches your eye and you look. It catches your eye and you look. It's just really cool. All right, very simple. Okay, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com is the email. Any questions or comments during the show, you can hit me up right there. Also, I want to mention once again, because last night on the show, we announced our newest sponsor, which is Numana, emergency food storage that you'll love to eat. Seriously, it's a genuine, family-owned, made-in-America company, the best. And now, last night, the promo code wasn't working. It was working before the show. We announced it on the show, and I immediately started to get email from everyone saying that the promo code wasn't working. It is now. So now I'll say it again tonight. Just click on the banner over at jimmychurchradio.com. Use the promo code Jimmy. That's all you got to do. You do that, you're going to get a 5% discount and an autographed Fade to Black shirt for every order over $100. The family pack, right? Get a family pack, $149, and you will sleep easy at night. I had said on the show, and it's so important, I had said on the show when all of these hurricanes were going down and the fire here in Burbank and the earthquakes in Mexico City and the earthquakes that we have here, we are having them every day. We do have an earthquake here every day, by the way. And Rita says to me, you know, dude, what have you got planned? Right? If it goes down here, you know, oh, great protector of mine, what are you going to do with your family? Have you got plans? And I just had my eyes open all night. I just couldn't sleep thinking about it. So we went out the next day and prepped. And I talked about that on the show. And that's when our relationship with Numana started. And I am so happy. I'm going to say that I have tested. I have tasted. I ate their Alfredo pasta today for lunch. Actually, I had it for dinner last night too, as a snack before bed. But it's an amazing product. It's delicious. The chili, the habanero chili, right? So I'm going to get Daniel on the show. I think he's going to be with us on Monday, by the way. And I want to know who's making these recipes. Where are the recipes coming from? It's really, really good stuff. So please take care of your family. Take care of yourself. You never know when an emergency is going to happen, and you don't want to be caught. You just don't. Numana. Okay, click on the banner. Use the promo code Jimmy, and you're going to get an autographed Fade to Black shirt. How cool is that? And you're going to get a discount. Best deal on the web, Numana, and American-made, non-GMO. They even have organic products. They have milk. They have meat products, too, proteins. If you need, you're going to need proteins. You got to do that, too, as well. So it's all there. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on that banner. Okay, now also, Unity Workshops. I mentioned yesterday that they are starting production on their first series of podcasts. And they are calling right now on researchers and experiencers for their series on portals. Portals, how cool is that? So if you want to join this project, either as a production help, maybe a producer, a writer, contact them. It's very simple. They have now created a website. It's called theunityproject.org. Rita's going to pop up the links right now on Twitter. I'll retweet it. It's theunityproject.org. You can also contact John at modernmasters.org. You can contact Rita directly, Rita at jimmychurchradio.com. Very exciting, and getting this community together and staying united on one front is what we do. Okay? All right. Where am I at? Oh, don't forget, though, by the way, to subscribe to our podcast. And to do that, just go over to jimmychurchradio.com. If you have not visited the website lately, go and check it out. Fully updated. And look at the amazing artwork and just cruise through the website. We've worked on it really hard. You know what? Not me. I'm just the guy that goes, it looks good. Can we change that? I'm the guy that makes everybody angry. But I've got to say, I am very proud. Today, I haven't gone to the website and cruised through it in a long time. Today, I just couldn't take my eyes off of it. So I just have to thank Rita for her amazing work and artwork, and of course Drew, who absolutely works 24 hours a day, always picks up the phone. And see, this is the thing. Drew's phone lights up, right, and he sees my name there. This is work. Drew's going to hear me say, dude, I need this change, this change, this change. I need it all done now. Text me when it's done. And that's my phone call. And I feel bad about that. But now I just have to thank Drew and Rita. And you just go and everything is working and all of the shops are working. It's just wonderful. So go, if you haven't checked it out lately, go over to the website, jimmychurchradio.com. Again, all of our sponsors are there. Life Change Tea, GetTheTea.com, River Moon Coffee, New Pharma, Ancient Life Oil, Sacred Skulls. Of course, New Mana is there, and Bearing Optics. All of the information that you need, what discounts you get, what the promo codes are, they're all there in all of the banners. It's very simple. So you just click on the banner. There's a promo code that you need, and go. Help support the shows. All right, let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday today to Eminem. Yeah, I said it. I like Eminem. Dude is mega talent, right? Mega. I don't think there is a rapper of any genre, of any make, model. It doesn't matter. There is not a rapper on this planet that doesn't wish they could rap like Eminem. There, I said it. I said it. Maybe the Beastie Boys too, but I just said it. I know what I'm talking about. Happy birthday, Eminem, 45 years old. Also, one of the greats today that helped this nation get to where we are right now. Mike Judge today is 55 years old. Also today, Suzanne Summers today is 71, the Thigh Master. Remember that? Our dead guy's birthday today, Evel Knievel, 1938 to 2007. I cannot believe he's gone. Died at the age of 69. And think about it. Yeah, there was Caesar's Palace, great, over the fountains, right? That was great. The L.A. Coliseum, right? 50 cars or whatever that was. Wembley, remember Wembley down the ramp? That was crazy. That was live on ABC Sports. I will never forget the Wembley jump. And Snake River Canyon, right? Pay-per-view back then. Snake River Canyon. But no, I saw him jump in 1971 at the Chicago Convention Center. He jumped a bunch of Greyhound buses, as many as they could pack in there. It wasn't that many, like 8 or 10 or something. He didn't do like 30 or 15 or something. But anyway, I saw him jump, and that was the coolest jump. That's the one that I saw. My hands on the chain link fence. I'm like 8 years old, 7 years old, just looking through this chain link fence. Man, I'm about that tall. It was pretty cool, man. I saw him come down. I didn't see him jump. I saw him land right in front of me. Really cool. Seriously. It was awesome. In 1973, by the way, the Ideal Toy Company released the Evel Knievel Stunt Cycle. Remember that? Remember the wind up? Watch Twitter light up right now. Every male right now that was alive in the 70s is going to post a picture of the Evel Knievel stunt cycle because we all had one. And trust me, when that was released, the life changed for every boy under 10 on planet Earth. We all had one. Looked good in the commercials, too. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. He died in Clearwater, Florida on November 30th, 2007 at the age of 69. All right, on this day in history, OTD, 1989, earthquake rocks San Francisco, California. At 5:04 p.m., it lasted for just 15 seconds. The quake measured 7.1 on the Richter scale and was witnessed live on TV because millions were watching the third game of the World Series between the San Francisco Giants and the Oakland Athletics that was going on at Candlestick Park in San Francisco. And I watched it live. I remember when the camera started wiggling and the announcer said, I think we're having an earthquake. And, wow, right? And there you go. That was an unbelievable event in San Francisco. Worst earthquake that they had there since 1906. Fader fact. Now, this is, I didn't get one tweet of the Evel Knievel stunt cycle you guys are talking about. I want to see a picture of the Evel Knievel stunt cycle. Okay? All right, there it is. Thank you. You guys are good. I guess that's the delay. I'll go ahead and retweet that, Bob. Nice. Everybody says, I had it. I know. Everybody did. Fader fact. Are you ready? New York City is actually rainier than London. And that is a Fader fact. All right. Man, look at you guys with the Evel Knievel stuff. Now it's flying. Now it's flying. Okay. Where am I at? Tonight, very special guest Josh Gates is here. And very bizarre. My messenger just stopped working. Yeah, there you go. Tonight, Josh Gates, Expedition Unknown. We're going to talk about the latest 4 episodes of Expedition Unknown are called Hunt for Extraterrestrials. And tonight, Josh is live from Cairo, Egypt. And we're going to talk about those 4 episodes, what he has found out, of course, but everything else when it comes to not only, you have to think about this too, not only Expedition Unknown, but you have Destination. You have, you remember when he did Ghost Hunters Live? You remember that? Ghost Hunters Live. I'm going to ask Josh about this. Ghost Hunters Live, 7-hour show. I believe up until that time, it had like 1.7 or 2 million, something like that, viewers, was the highest rated show in sci-fi's history up until that time. I don't know. Maybe it still is up to this point, but pretty much solidified Josh to where he is today. And that was almost 10 years ago. So, but it's the Hunt for Extraterrestrials where he is dipping his toe now that I'm really going to find interesting in what he is doing in Cairo as we speak. All right. Now, speaking about Cairo, and that's when I turn to River Moon Coffee and take my sip. Man, I have no shame in my game. When my sponsors are this good, there is zero shame in my game. I know that anybody that gets River Moon Coffee, gets the Faded Black Blend for the first time, they grind those beans and they make that first pot and the smell, right? And they know at that moment it's something special. But then everybody takes that first sip. And this is, I know what pops in everybody's mind at that point. They're going, Church was right. This is the best coffee in the world that I've ever had, that I ever will have. I'm in love with it so much at this moment, I've got to take a picture of this cup of coffee and text it to Jimmy. It happens every single time. So funny. All right. One of the things that I research Every day, I'm trying to find something new. I'm trying to go there. Is our lost history. And there's no way really to go in those directions without going through Iraq, Sumer, Mesopotamia, or Egypt, right? And growing up, where you had certain movies out there about, maybe Cleopatra, right? And you got a little taste of it. But that wasn't, you have to think about this. So when you are watching as a kid a movie like Cleopatra, certainly it looks old. It looks cool. You have all of those things, the sculptures, the columns, the gold, the costumes, the furniture, where she lived, the boats, the big battle at the end of the movie. All of that, right? When she comes into Rome for the first time and she's on that thing with the dudes with the drums but if you think about that for a second, at that moment, Egypt was already over 3,000 years old officially. At that moment, Cleopatra is closer to us today than she was with Egypt. That's how old Egypt is. So when you go and you start to head in those directions, you look at the age of Rome, it's pretty old, right? You look at Athens and Greece, pretty old. You can look at Yerevan, Armenia, older than the both of them, right? But those are not necessarily the directions that you go in. You've seen those movies on, Greece, and you've seen the old Roman movies. Okay, great. But that's not where you go. You've got to go through either Sumer or Mesopotamia, Iraq, or Egypt. And once you go back to a certain point, as far as you can go, where history is written down and marked, you stop, allegedly, at 3000 BC. Now, it didn't start at 3000 BC. That's impossible. But what you do find when you go back to that point, and this is what is most interesting here, and this is where Rita and I have been spending all of our research right now, and it's tough, is to go beyond 3000 BC, what they say officially 3000 BC, and go beyond that. What actually happened? And when you go beyond 3000 BC, both with Sumer and Egypt, they are talking about tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years of history. That is one of the most fascinating things that one can think about. And if you go based on what the Egyptians have said about their own ancient history, predating 3000 BC and where they came from, or the Sumerians and their culture and what they write about, we know, okay? It goes back hundreds of thousands of years. One thing is for sure, at 3000 BC, when both of these countries and cultures started, they started upright, correct. This needs to be understood by everybody. They had it all going on from the word go. And you look at Sumer at 3000 BC, and if you think about it, all of everything was already there. They didn't have to wait around for things. They didn't have to wait around for education or roads or schools or religions or government or universities, agriculture, the wheel, writing, books, libraries, doctors, medicine, recipes, bookkeeping, accounting, numbers, a system. It was already done. They didn't move forward and invent, and it was the same thing over in Egypt. And that's the bizarre thing here for me. So how do you go beyond 3000 BC? In our travels on Fade to Black and how we are going to figure out what is going on back then, pushing the envelope, getting further back, getting past 3000 BC, there are answers out there. There are answers. There's no way that we can just accept that one day Stone Age man walks out of the desert, either in Sumer or in Egypt, knowing everything. It doesn't work that way. And the reason why I'm talking about it right now, I posted over on Facebook. You can go and look at it. A 5,000-year-old toy chariot. Wait a minute. It's got 4 wheels. Take a look at it. When you go and look at that, and allegedly it's a toy. They found a tomb full of toys. It's a toy. It could be a model of a car that was bigger. It's got 4 wheels. Go and look at that. We're talking about Stone Age man building toy cars for their children. It upsets everything with history. It doesn't work that way. And what we are being told and what they are finding, and we are going to continue to find more, that history has been lying to us, and it is wrong. I want somebody to post that picture that we have up on my personal Facebook page. Take a look at that. It's unbelievable. And with that, I'm going to get out of here because I've got Josh Gates chomping at the bit to get in here. And he is absolutely 100% live from Cairo, Egypt. I wonder what hotel he's staying at. You know what I mean? I don't think it's downtrodden. No, because we got a pretty good connection today. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Josh Gates, Expedition Unknown, Hunt for Extraterrestrials. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. This is truly bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back with our guest, Josh Gates. Stay right there.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. Let's wind the clocks back 60 years. Food was different. Food provided health and nutrition, and using supplements was minimal. Unfortunately, now we have chemicals, GMOs, herbicides, and pesticides that can be quite lethal in the name of our food supply and, of course, the ever-loving dollar. Supplementing our diets can be very important to stay healthy. Cleansing from daily intruders to the body might be critical. Live strong and take charge. Log on to getthetea.com. Our herbal tea is a great way to cleanse from intruders. Our supplements is a great way to maintain and improve your health. When your health is not up to par, go to getthetea.com. No GMOs, no fillers, and organic, and very helpful in keeping you at the top of your game. Life is too short to feel, you know what I mean. Stay in the game, at the top of your game with getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Again, getthetea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black. is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Win big with KGRA this summer. Tickets and hotel accommodations to the biggest conferences, autographed books and DVDs, chances to win all-inclusive conference cruises, and private dinners with your favorite KGRA hosts. Click the contest tab at kgraradio.com for your chance to win big this summer. Your contact for the best alternative talk radio on the planet. kgraradio.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Simple enough, and you can follow Josh at Joshua Gates on Twitter. It's all up there right now in the feed. All right, let's get settled here. Josh Gates is the host and executive producer of the new Travel Channel series, Expedition Unknown. The show takes viewers around the world and off the map for a thrilling investigation into history's most iconic legends. For 5 years, though, Josh also helmed and co-executive produced the hit Syfy Channel series Destination Truth. And each week, he and his team set out to investigate all of those age-old mysteries and recent cryptozoological sightings and paranormal reports. And the series was groundbreaking, and I tried not to miss an episode, and I binged frequently. He also was the host of Ghost Hunters Live and is the author of Memoirs of a Monster Hunter. Now, the thing is, and I'm going to ask Josh about this in just a second, I believe Ghost Hunters Live and that special broadcast was the biggest, the largest viewed show on Syfy up to that point, with like 1.5 million, 2 million viewers. And certainly that would catapult anybody to the top of what they do. Tonight, we're going to talk about his latest of 4 episodes of Expedition Unknown called The Hunt for Extraterrestrials. And, of course, his website and the links are up over at jimmychurchradio.com, joshuagates.com. And I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, the one and only Josh Gates, live from Cairo. Josh, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
And it's seriously good morning for you. See,
It's definitely good morning for me. It's about 4:30 a.m. here, so bright and early.
Man. I hope the Egyptian coffee is all that they say it is.
It's literally in my hand as we speak. I'm about to mainline it directly into my veins.
Before we get started, Josh, you get the first time guest disclaimer. So let's get that out of the way. Which is this. Okay. It's just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends. Where the conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends, but we're going to end as friends. You ready?
I like it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I am. Let's do it.
I want to start here. We're going to go backwards in just a second, and I'll throw you a couple of softballs about your childhood. But I actually want to start here. You've had the opportunity now to look back at 10 plus years of doing what you do. I want you to, have you wrapped your head around the explanation of the success?
Oh no, that's absolutely not. No, I've had a very lucky ride, I think, in many ways. I started in this business really as a guy who loved to travel, I think, more than anything else, and who had a real curiosity for seeing the world. And, I'm not unique in that. Lots of people love to travel and see the world. And so the fact that I've had a lot of success and been able to do that for a living still completely blows my mind.
So you're still in the pinch me, I'm dreaming mode.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Expedition Unknown, Destination Truth, certainly both those shows are and were a lot of work. They're hard shows in a lot of ways. And so, it's been a challenging ride. I mean, going around the world to some of the places that we go and making these shows is certainly hard work. But yeah, just the fact that I get to get up every day and go to these really interesting places, investigate these mysteries and these legends. I mean, it's a dream come true.
Yeah, and it's hard to stay grounded sometimes. I'll say this, my little, shows that I do with history and stuff like that. We were out in Manhattan shooting last fall, my wife and I, and we're walking around Manhattan, and we're just thinking, the greatest city in the world, right? And we're getting paid. We're shooting a TV show that I'm the host of, and I'm thinking to myself, life doesn't get any better than this, right? And I hope they don't find out that I'm not worthy enough, right? So let's ride this thing out. But surely you appreciate that, don't you? You appreciate where you're at.
I really do. I mean, when I meet people every day who say, man, I wish I could travel. I wish I could go somewhere. I haven't had the opportunity to do that. So I try to take every single day, and no matter how difficult the shoot is, how frustrating the logistics are, I try to just, take a deep breath and go, look where I am right now. I mean, I'm in Egypt right now.
Right.
This is one of the most incredible places in the world. So no matter how sweltering the heat is, how many mosquitoes are biting in the jungle, wherever I am, I always try to just say, God, this is cool. Remember, this is cool.
Now tell me, and you can lie if you want. It's okay because we don't know. But tell me you can look out your window at the Giza Plateau.
Well, I actually, I may have misled you a little bit. I was in Cairo a few days ago. I'm actually now in Luxor.
Oh, you're in Luxor.
So I'm a little further south. But if I look out the window right now, the sun isn't quite up yet, but I am looking out onto the River Nile, and beyond that, I can see the big rise of the Valley of the Kings and stuff on the other side. So it's pretty magical.
Yeah, absolutely. Now there's one aspect I do want to touch upon before we move forward, which is this: there is a seriously cool comedy element in what you do. Now, you don't take yourself that serious, and at the moment of something, you do have your brevity. You have your funny moments. Is that intentional? Did you grow up that way? Were you always able to pop off with the one-liner or the crazy face?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. I guess I was kind of the class clown kid, but I think for me, in terms of the show, it's like when you take a trip anywhere, half the time it all goes wrong. You know what I mean? Like any vacation you take, any adventure you take, at some point it all comes off the rails, and the problem for me with so much adventure TV and travel TV is that it's also glossy and it's also kind of perfect. And I really, from the very beginning, we were making Destination Truth, I really wanted to kind of show, warts and all, what was going on out there. So if we had a flat tire, if somebody got sick, if things didn't go our way, I mean, that's when travel gets interesting, right? I mean, that's when stuff gets fun. And so for me, a lot of it is about just kind of not sanitizing it all so that it just seems, kind of perfect, and just showing that, think crazy. When you're trying to travel the world, but also just to show the humor between people, meeting, whoever we meet around the world. We try to show having fun with folks as much as we do, being serious with them. So I think for me, that is part of the success of both Expedition Unknown and Destination Truth, is that the show has a sense of humor. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and it tries to stay real in a sense.
So what are you doing now? What can you tell us about what you're doing right now in Egypt?
Right now, I'm sitting in my underwear drinking coffee in the middle of the night. We are here doing a really cool 2-part special on women of Egypt. So we want to investigate a number of different famous women from Egyptian history who there are these really amazing mysteries surrounding. So we're talking about women like Cleopatra, women like Nefertiti, an amazing Egyptian queen named Hatshepsut, who is not a household name and probably should be because she's super cool.
Right.
And so talking about mysteries surrounding these women, Cleopatra, one of the most famous women of the ancient world, we have no idea where she's buried. We have no idea where her tomb is. So we're over here working with archaeologists who are trying to unravel some of the mysteries of these great women. So it's a really cool show. We're only about a third of the way through filming it, so we're going to be over here for another few weeks.
So there's one thing with both Destination and Expedition that I'm going to pat you on the back a little bit for, but I'm not going to be that.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm not going to be that much of a fanboy, but the problems when you're doing shows like yours or ours, that it's hard to have an ending. Right? If you're going to go search for the Ark of the Covenant, we know how that show's going to end. Or if you know what I mean. But you try to achieve closure on your shows. You actually try to get to, and sometimes succeed in, having closure and having a real ending. And that's a tough thing to do.
It is a hard thing to do. From the very beginning, way back on Destination Truth, there was an executive at the channel who I can remember in the early meetings saying to me, the hardest part of this show is going to be week after week finding a narrative bridge home, taking viewers around the world, but bringing them home and having it feel satisfying on some level. Because so much of that show was about looking for monsters and ghosts and things that, in some cases people are misidentifying, or it was folklore, or maybe it was a real thing that was happening, but we weren't going to be able to throw a net over it in the few days that we were there,
Right.
And so for me, it was always like, we wanted to go to these places. We wanted to do a real investigation, do real work, move the needle, in some way. But really, by the end of it, have the viewer feel like they saw a really interesting story, went to a place they'd never been to before, and learned a bit about a story they didn't know something about. And to the extent that we were able to explain it away, or, as I said, move the needle, do something, we wanted to do that. So we always try to make the shows feel, not just feel, but actually have them be satisfying on that level. That's one of the things I love about Expedition Unknown, is that as much as the subject material of Destination Truth was often pulpier, these like really cool monster stories and stuff, some of these archaeological mysteries and legends, there's real stuff happening here. I mean, I was with an archaeologist yesterday, and we were digging in the dirt and came across a skeleton, a human skeleton. There's real stuff happening here, real answers to be found still. And so we try to give people some of those answers. But you're right. I have people come up to me sometimes who say, "Oh, I'm a huge fan of the show. How come you never find anything?" Right. And I always sort of bang my head. I was like, I want to sit down and cry. It's like, we've featured the work of these really badass explorers and archaeologists, and these people are finding stuff every day. And so, you don't always come home with the Ark of the Covenant in your backpack, but really that isn't the benchmark. It's about, are you out here finding interesting stuff, moving the needle, and really telling an interesting story where there is meat on the bone, there is something happening, and that's really what it's all about.
I remember, let's go back on the Wayback Machine. I don't know if this was Destination or like the first episode of Expedition, but you went down to Panama to look for these pirate ships in this bay, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, I have been, that was at Fort San Lorenzo. I used to live down there. And I have been at the fort that you went to and looked down into that bay, and there were rumors. I think the Chagres River was coming out of Panama right there into the bay.
That's right, yeah.
And there were rumors about these pirate ships that were sunk there. It was what everybody talked about. And from at the top of the bay, you could look, the water's, clear, and you could see, lots of sharks, as you found out, and a lot of craziness down there. But you were relentless, going back in, back down. You are not some armchair guy with stock video footage, right? You are getting wet.
Yeah, I mean, we really do try to get into it. In that case, it was this really awesome story about Captain Morgan.
Right.
And, everybody knows Captain Morgan from the rum, right? They know him from the ad campaigns and the booze bottle. But, a lot of people don't know that Morgan was a real guy. He was this really fascinating character, and he was he was a pretty nasty pirate in a lot of ways. And his flagship, he crashed onto a reef just right where you're talking about, right off the Chagres River there in Panama.
Right.
And his flagship, which is a boat called the Satisfaction, has never been found. And we worked with this really interesting team of archaeologists, an amazing guy named Fritz Hanselman, who have been down there trying to find his ship. And in the process, we came with Professor Hanselman, we came across this extraordinary shipwreck that we had hoped was Morgan's. It turned out not to be, but it was no less interesting. This amazing wreck literally filled with treasure chests. I mean, filled with these wooden chests that are just filled with artifacts from hundreds of years ago, from around Morgan's time. So, you know, his boat is still out there. This is one of those like real life mysteries where, you know, the boat of one of the most famous pirates of all time is sitting right off the coast in Panama, just waiting to be found. It's incredible stuff.
Yeah, tons of boats are down there. That was the only way to get from, the Pacific to the Atlantic or vice versa. A lot of times they would drag their boats. Can you imagine? You know, Balboa would drag boats from one to the other and then continue the journey. And that's all they did was sink and crash down there. And they fought each other. So that you had that stuff going on. And it just must be littered with You guys found a lot of stuff down there, by the way, on that trip.
Incredible stuff. I mean, really incredible artifacts down there, just sitting on the ocean floor. And you're right. It's like this was the kind of highway of the ancient world. And you know, it is just littered with shipwrecks. And certainly in archaeology, that's the frontier now that people are moving into. Is there's so much in the world's oceans in terms of shipwrecks and artifacts that we've really just scratched the surface.
Now, let's go back to your childhood really quick before we hit this break. Did you have somebody steer you in this direction? Did you have some crazy aunt or uncle that was tripping you out? I mean, what was that like?
I mean, it was a combination of things. A big part of it has to do with my parents. My dad, who's retired now, was a commercial deep sea diver. He's the real hardcore guy, right? In the family, he was a hard hat deep sea diver. You work in salvage, working oil rigs, and he was always working overseas. So he was always coming home from these really exotic places. He'd be in Africa and he'd be in the North Sea off of Scotland. And so from an early age, I was kind of like amazed by these adventures he was having. And my mother is actually English. So every year we would go over to England when I was a kid to visit my family there. So ever since I was a kid, we were flying over to England. My dad was traveling. So I think from an early age, I had this kind of sense of like, wow, there's this big world out there, you know? But I also was a total like Spielberg kid. You know, I always feel like Spielberg was like my stepfather or something. So, you know, I was a total Indiana Jones junkie. I kind of grew up in that kind of 80s Goonies kind of era, you know? And so I was obsessed with things like Indiana Jones and the Goonies. And I really do think in a lot of ways it made a really deep impression on me about kind of having adventures, you know, and being out there and living this adventurous life. And so I think I always had that kind of bug.
And what about the supernatural side? Did you have a sighting? Did you have an experience? Somebody come back from the dead into your bedroom and say hello, that they were doing okay?
I was always into that stuff in the way that I think all kids are, right? Like all kids kind of love ghost stories and everyone, when you're a kid, kind of knows another kid who's got a haunted story or something happened in his house. For me, it was my best friend, whose name is Yon, rhymes with phone. Yon, who's this kid that I grew up with. His family had this big kind of rambling, creepy house that was right on the rocks over the ocean in Massachusetts, where I grew up, and it was a really old house. And as kids, we used to go there, me and him and a few other guys from the neighborhood, and the house was notoriously haunted. Lots of people had seen stuff in this house, and doors would slam, and I hated spending the night in this house. We used to do sleepovers there, and I hated it. But you know, you're kids, so you kind of love it and you hate it. You know, it was like terrifying, but it was exciting. And so we used to do Ouija boards and stuff there. We were kids, and you know, it would work and things would happen and the needle would move and one of our friends saw something in an upstairs closet and was terrified and fell down the stairs, screaming, seeing something in this house. It was one of those places that was just filled with that kind of energy of you know, the spooky kind of haunted house vibe.
Right.
So ever since I was a kid, we were always into that stuff, and so I think that kind of laid the groundwork for me for an interest in investigating the paranormal too, because you know, like everybody, you know someone who has these experiences, and you've been to places where you feel something. You know, places have an energy, right? And so there's certain places you walk into and you go, ugh, I have a weird feeling in here. And so, yeah, from an early age, my best friend's house was, I think, like the early entree into being totally into this stuff.
Now, before your television expeditions out there, you know, chasing down extraterrestrials or monsters, had you had a sighting of something in the sky before your television career?
No, I hadn't. You know, I am super nerdy about space. I love science fiction. I grew up watching Star Trek and Star Wars and was obsessed with sci-fi writers, loved, you know, Bradbury and Asimov and all those guys. And so I was a sci-fi geek. And so certainly I wanted to have an experience. I mean, I was into this stuff hardcore. And so, no, but I never did. I always was completely mesmerized by the question of whether or not we're alone in the universe. And so it's something from an early age that I had a real passion for.
Have you answered that question for yourself?
Yes and no. You know, this special that we're airing now, which is this big 4-part special, is devoted just to this one question, you know. And I think in many ways it is like the ultimate question, you know, are we alone? And I think everybody has asked this question. And so for me, the whole reason we wanted to do the special is I wanted to go around the world. I wanted to meet, you know, compelling eyewitnesses. I wanted to meet real experts. And I wanted to sort of say, okay, what's really out there for evidence? And is this real? And so I came back from that trip with a lot of, you know, really interesting revelations. There's amazing evidence in the show and there's really cool stuff in the series. But I also came back feeling 100% convinced that there is life out in the universe. Now, whether it's been here to Earth or not, that's a much stickier question. And so I still grapple with that question. But I came back from this show a believer in the sense that I now think it's impossible that we're the only game in town.
When I wish you and your producers would have called me before. I would have told you exactly where to go. But there's a spot, and see, this is what's really great because you're in the right frame of mind and the right age and so forth to go and experience where you have that epiphany, and then you back up and you go, okay, all right, I get it. And that place is Isetti Ranch up in Washington, and if you ever get a chance, and you can go ahead and write that down, you can call me later, I can hook you up. But if you just go out there, and also Joshua Tree, California is pretty magical for this kind of stuff too. But you just go up there, and I can guarantee you, they wouldn't even take this bet in Vegas. I promise. You just go up there and hang out for a couple of nights and go out there in the field, the big Skywatch field, and look up and towards Mount Adams up there. It's been going on for decades. And just watch. It's like, you mentioned Spielberg. It's like the ending of Close Encounters, but for real, right? And it's just like, it's unbelievable what goes on up there. Now, this is the thing, Josh. When you see these kind of objects, and we're going to discuss some of the things that you have seen in these last 4 episodes. When you see these things in the night sky, which you can't convince yourself of, is it us or them? You know, is it some secret technology that our military may have? Or is it something else? You know, and if it is our military with some secret technology, isn't that just as much of a a conspiracy or a concern for us, knowing that we're not privy to that kind of technology?
Sure, absolutely, and that's that's something that we cover a bit in the series as well. Is whether it's an extraterrestrial explanation or something else. Yeah, it's incredibly compelling stuff.
Yeah, let's take a break right here because I've seen some of the highlights of the 4 episodes, and there are some moments there where Josh really, when Josh says, "Holy crap, what is that?" I want to know what he was seeing. And we'll talk about all of that in just a short bit. Our guest tonight, Josh Gates, Expedition Unknown. We're going to talk about his 4-part series that's airing right now on Travel Channel called Hunt for Extraterrestrials. This is Jimmy Church. We'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, Fadernauts. This is Jimmy Church, and I'm introducing New Pharma, a company whose products are based on science. Human function based on the endocannabinoid system, or ECS. New Pharma firmly believes in this science, and their research indicates that support of the ECS provides the beneficial effects for a healthy lifestyle. New Pharma's science includes relief capsules for pain relief, sleep capsules, which are natural support for occasional sleeplessness. Foundation is support for your ECS, and Fit capsules support your active lifestyle. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B for a 33% discount on all of their products. Or visit newpharma.com for all of the knowledge on the science. That's GNUpharma.com. Go Beckley Tappy.
You're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Ancient Life Oil. Life-changing. The real oil. CBD is truly ancient life oil from the source. This oil has no psychoactive effect and is also legal in all 50 states. When you're healthy, you're happy. The truth about this wonderful plant is that it wants to give back to mankind life, longevity, and happiness. Ancient Life Oil are golden grade, all organic, non-GMO, and infused with high-quality liquid coconut oil. It's simple. Just go to ancientlifeoil.com today. That's ancientlifeoil.com. The best, purest, organic, and non-GMO CBD in the world. Go Beckley Tappy. The statements made regarding these products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Please consult your healthcare professional about potential interactions or other possible complications before using any product.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow Josh at Joshua Gates on Twitter. Very simple. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. And here we have live from Luxor, Josh Gates. Now, Josh, in the new series, in this 4-parter, there's one shot that I keep going back and laughing at because you're driving, and which is not safe to do, by the way. You know, look at a laptop while driving somebody from the back seat. Look at this, right? In fact, I think that's the last word before you drive off a cliff, right? Is look at this.
Exactly.
But you freak out. What were you looking at?
It's a moment that comes in the third or the fourth episode of the show, where we worked with these scientists in England who have this really interesting theory that they're testing about alien life possibly existing in microbial form. You know, not the big sort of bad aliens that we're all used to seeing, but of course tiny, microscopic alien life. And they believe that that there is extraterrestrial microbial life that is right at the edge of the atmosphere, sort of drifting down from space, coming into the Earth's atmosphere. So we sent up this really cool kind of high-tech, low-tech weather balloon, which had this really amazing device attached to it to collect samples. And it had this feed where it would send us information. And we were looking at a live image of this thing that we had let go of in a field, literally communicating down images to us from the very edge of outer space. And I was just so totally blown away that this thing that had been in my hands 20 minutes earlier was sending me like the most incredible imagery above the planet that I'd ever seen. And that it was functioning, and this box kind of opens itself up and collects these samples. It's just really amazing stuff. So it's also a really cool experiment that has some amazing results. And so it's one of the really exciting things in the show is this idea that, maybe life on Earth started this way. It's this theory called panspermia, which sounds X-rated, but is not.
Right.
It is this theory that it basically alien life in microbial form smashed into the planet, either via being on board a meteorite or just sort of falling in from space, and that sort of seeded the planet, and that we all could be extraterrestrials in a sense. And so it's a really kind of mind-blowing idea. And there's really interesting evidence that it might be true.
And their report, when it first broke, and I'm reading it, it's pretty chilling. It's hair-raising when you wrap your mind around exactly what they are suggesting, which is this is raining down on us all the time, right?
Right.
That's pretty trippy.
Right, because there are different thoughts on this. And one of the things in this week's episode, which airs tomorrow night on Travel, is this idea that perhaps life came here trapped inside these meteorites, which would be rarer kind of events, that every once in a while a meteorite smashes into the planet, and maybe that meteorite has in it some bacterial life. And there's been a couple of meteorites. There's a famous one in Antarctica that was found, I think of the Allen Hills meteorite,
right,
which a lot of scientists have looked at and said it looks like there is a kind of bacterial, fossilized signature in here of life, but they've never been able to really agree on it. And so it may be something like that happens, or in the case of these scientists that we worked with, they think it's happening all the time, that effectively out beyond Earth's atmosphere, that these little bits and bobs of microbial life are just sort of drifting around space and essentially falling in to the gravitational pull of planets everywhere, and that's how life pops up.
The big discussion today is disclosure. I don't know if you caught Tom DeLonge, from Blink-182. He did a live press conference a few days ago from Seattle, with the ex-head of Skunk Works, and he had a CIA guy, Department of Defense official, and Hal Puthoff, and announcing this new company that he's forming, pushing this disclosure question forward, and they're going to introduce alien technology into commercial industry. Now, it's pretty ambitious, and he's selling stock, and it's a SEC publicly traded venture. Okay, pretty interesting, but the question of disclosure is what the UFO community has been pushing for really hard the last 10 years. What would it take? What is disclosure to you? I mean, what What would it take? Is it the flying saucer on the front lawn of the White House? Is that what it's going to take to push this thing forward?
Well, I mean, look, in terms of disclosure, I think whether you're a firm UFO ET believer or whether you're a hardened skeptic, I think there's no question that there has not been an enormous amount of transparency in recent decades about some of the sightings and reports that have happened from the military, from the government, from even from civilians. One of the things that really shocked me in our special was we went down to Chile, and Chile has strangely high reports of UFOs. There's a lot of UFO sightings down in the Atacama Desert in Chile and in different parts of the country. And they have a government organization called Syfy, which is entirely devoted to UFO reports. This is a government organization. This is not some civilian group. This is not a bunch of enthusiasts who got together. These are people that are working for the government. And they take reports of UFOs really seriously. And everything is transparent. Everything is published on their website and in their archives. And I went down and met with them and saw some of these amazing videos that they have been investigating, and said to them, why do you do this? Why do you have this government organization that looks into this? And their answer was really simple. They said, look, over 1 million people fly through Chilean airspace every year on commercial planes. You're going on vacation somewhere. Chile takes up the whole western edge of South America, basically, right. Or a lot of it. And we've got all sorts of people flying through our airspace. We have our own national security to worry about. And if people are seeing something in the skies, whether it's a UFO or a drone or something else, a weather phenomenon, we want to understand it. We want to know about it. And there's nothing secretive about that. We want to investigate it, and we're going to report what we find. Now, that's in such stark contrast to the way that we do things in the United States, where we may have had Project Blue Book and things like that decades ago, but there is really no, open and transparent government organization investigating these things, and it's all sort of kept, no pun intended, under the radar. So I think in terms of disclosure for me, I just think that it is important that this question should be talked about more openly. And there are obviously sightings that have taken place, and there's no reason for those to be, I think, as secretive as they are. I think a more kind of open approach to that would be great. Now, what would it take for me or everybody to become a believer? Well, that's the big question. I mean, I think it would take for many people, physical proof in the flesh, something that is not in the shadows, something that is not debatable, something that is tangible, that is, the spaceship on the lawn, right? I mean, I think that until we have this kind of right in front of us physical proof, I think for many people, this question of UFOs will always be an outlying question. It will always be something fringy unless it can be brought into the mainstream.
Do you think we could handle it?
Probably not. I mean, who knows? I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think in some sense, no. I mean, I think in some sense it would rock our civilizations to the core. I mean, so much of our society, not just here but around the world, has pretty entrenched like religious underpinnings. I mean, I think saying we're not alone in the universe, we're not unique, we are not the only game in town would be pretty shocking, I think, for a lot of people. And it would mean having to rethink a lot of things and look at things differently. But at the same time, if that's the case and it's real, it's the most important discovery in the history of humanity. So, yeah, I mean, I think we would have to handle it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I feel like I just interrupted you, but this is what I find interesting, because you even said it yourself at the when we first started talking, which is this: we've been asking, all cultures have been looking to the stars, for 10,000 years, wondering what's going on up there, right? This is the fundamental. We have two fundamental questions. What happens when we die, right? And are we alone? So it's not like we're not, right? We've been preparing ourselves for it. So why ask the question if you don't want the answer? And I just believe that we could. Look, you live in L.A. This is my attitude, right? You live in L.A. There's nothing worse than the 405 freeway at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, right? Am I right?
Nothing.
You're
right.
Okay. Now, if a flying saucer, big craft, came down and landed on the 405 during rush hour at 5 p.m., there's going to be about 15 minutes of freak out. Whoa, there's a flying saucer. But 20 minutes later, somebody's going to start honking their horn saying, get that thing off of the freeway. Right? And that's what I think.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think for me, coming out of this whole investigation going around the world, the thing that really kind of amazed me in the end of all of this, but also kind of frustrated me, is that I think there is no doubt now that there is life out in the universe. You know, one of the things that was kind of shocking to me as I went around the world is that the brightest minds on the planet, they really agree on this now. I mean, there is a consensus now among astronauts and astronomers and deep space explorers that it would be crazy if we were the only life in the universe. You know, 20, 30 years ago, we had this idea that, you know, a planet like Earth might be incredibly rare. There may be nothing else out there like Earth. You know, just the right kind of Goldilocks zone of distance from a star and having an atmosphere and water and the right amount of gravity and all that. And now we know that planets like Earth are way more common than we thought. They're finding these planets. They're called exoplanets, right? They're finding these planets every week,
every day,
and every day.
Yeah.
And these deep space telescopes are now finding hundreds and hundreds of these, and we're now realizing there may be billions of planets that fit the bill, that are just like Earth, in that they're sitting in this kind of sweet spot where we know life is possible. And so, to me, that's incredible. You know, we're now able to image these planets, at least kind of indirectly, and know that they're there. And so, to me, I just feel like that's enough for all of us to be really excited about trying to get out into the universe and explore and figure out what is out there. And yet I think a lot of people see the news of these exoplanets and they kind of, you know, shrug and they drink their morning coffee and they kind of probably agree. A lot of people kind of say, yeah, you know, probably we are not alone in the universe. And it's like, well, wait a minute, that's like huge. If you believe that kind of rocks everything. And so I do think people could get used to it, because I think people have gotten used to the idea. A lot of people are kind of used to the idea that, yeah, you know, they are finding these Earth-like planets. Maybe there is something else out there. And people are kind of normalized that and been like, yeah, okay, I guess so. Whereas I'm like, that's like, then we should be launching spaceships tomorrow. Like, let's go try to find what's out there, you know? And to me, whether you believe in the UFO part of it or not, if you're on board with the idea that there might be life in the universe, that changes everything. That's mind-bending stuff. And so I wish there was more enthusiasm to really tackle that question and get out there and try to figure out what that life looks like, where it is, and how to communicate with it.
Now, this is what's really interesting, because you just experienced this firsthand. You know, you go down to Chile, you meet with the military. I know that those guys were wearing their uniforms, right? And you're talking about the ET question. Right. You can't do that at the Pentagon. You, Josh Gates, You couldn't go and knock on the Pentagon with your producers and go, can we sit down and talk about the alien agenda?
It would be a very short interview.
It would be very short. Why the difference in the way that our cultures are dealing with this? They are pushing for openness. So is France. You know, Chile's not alone in this, but you just experienced it. But there is nobody in our military that would seriously sit down and talk to you.
I know, and that's a shame. And I think that it's like, well, first of all, there just should be an openness, because people are having experiences, people are having compelling encounters, and those should be looked at. You know, whether you're a skeptic or not, those should be looked at. But the other part of it for me is this other question, which is like, being so close-minded to this question, I think in some ways has stunted our enthusiasm to go out into the universe and explore this question. I mean, I don't care if you're the most hardened skeptic in the world, you cannot argue anymore with the fact that we're finding these planets all over the universe. And and once you kind of settle in and realize that that's the deal, that there are Earth-like planets all over the place, you got to really work hard to say to yourself, we are the only organic matter in the entire vast universe. And the minute you sort of let that creep in, then what's so crazy about the idea of aliens? If once you kind of let in the reality of the fact that life is out there, then all of it gets a little bit more possible.
Yeah, if we found out that we were actually alone, then there's no reason to live, right? There's no reason to save this planet. Let's just party this mother down, right? I mean,
it's more terrifying. You're right.
Right.
I mean, if you're totally alone in this gigantic empty black, emptiness of space, that's like terrifying.
It's like, who cares?
So, yeah, totally. You don't want to be alone. You want there to be alien life out there, unless they're giant insects and they come here and colonize us. Then
and eat us. You went down to Nazca, and I want your impressions of that, because it is such a fascinating place. Plus, there's been these three-fingered mummies, three-toe mummies that have recently surfaced down there. They're doing the DNA testing on. It's pretty fascinating to look at these videos and look at the MRIs and the what's the word, X-rays. What do you think about that, and how did Nazca affect you?
Nazca's a really wild place, I'm sure most folks are familiar with it, but we're talking about the deserts of Peru here, where you've got this ancient civilization that made these massive glyphs and symbols in the sand. And what is really wild about Nazca is when you go down there and you stand at ground level, you kind of look around and you're like, all right, I'm looking at the desert. There's not much to see here. But when you get some elevation and you get up high, you see these incredibly complex shapes and symbols. It's real easy to say this has got to be somehow connected to the skies, because this is something that is just unviewable almost from ground level. Now, there are hills around Nazca where you can see a lot of these things. Some of them. There are some that are way out in the flats that you sort of struggle to understand why anybody would build these things, because you can't really see them from the ground. I don't know. One of the things that we're investigating in this second episode of the show is this ancient alien question, which is this sort of subset, as you obviously well know, of this whole question. And it's really an area in which was the most skeptical going in, because I'm such a lover of history and archaeology, and sometimes the early achievements of man are really weird, but that doesn't necessarily make them extraterrestrial, right? And so you look at the Nazca lines, and there are a lot of totally sober, rational explanations for how they built them and things like that. But you do bump up against these kind of parts of the problem where you then go, okay, but why did they build them? And they say, well, maybe they did ceremonies. We don't really know, but there's some evidence that they were used for rituals. And okay, why do they look like big runways and weird intersecting shapes that don't really at all look like anything terrestrial? Well, we don't really know, so you kind of end up at this stopping point where there are things about ancient cultures you can't explain. Nazca's a really strange place. It has a kind of an amazing energy to it, being down there. And it's a mystery. The Nazca people are a mystery. I mean, they survived in one of the harshest, worst places you could build. I mean, like, if you were a member of the Nazca civilization, there's another group down there called the Paracas that are famous for elongating their skulls.
Right.
This is a place where you would not want to live. Like, everywhere else in Peru is a better deal than this. Like, go up to the highlands where there's rain and things are growing. This is like, you have to really want to live in a crappy environment, to be down in these deserts. It is like, it does not rain ever down there. And yet here they are, forging this existence, making these really strange shapes. We spent a lot of this second episode in Easter Island. And Easter Island has long been associated with strange sort of connections to extraterrestrials. Of course, famous for these giant moai statues that everybody knows. And, Easter Island has this same weird history. It's like you have all these people that are building these giant statues. Really, we don't know why. It took a huge amount of resources to do for a group of people who didn't have a lot of resources to begin with. But okay, they're worshiping their gods or their ancestors, and so they're building these statues. And then at some point in their history, they abandon all of that. Just one day, they just decide, okay, we're not going to make the statues anymore. We're going to worship this cult of the Birdman,
right,
which is this kind of religion devoted to this entity from the sky, And so some people have said, well, something came down from the sky, and they turned their attention toward it and said, okay, we're going to worship this now. And archaeologists say, well, that's nonsense. Like, there's no evidence that happened. And then you go, okay, but why did they suddenly, after honing their skills, making these statues, which were so important to them, why did they suddenly give it all up to worship this other thing? And they kind of go, well, we don't really know. So you always end up in this kind of dead end. But that doesn't mean that things are extraterrestrial. It just means there are still questions out there. And that's one of the things I love about this job, is that it's fun to pull at those threads and ask those questions.
Well, I'll tell you what's most fascinating about Easter Island for me. Yeah, the moai, cool. Yeah, okay, I get all of that. Facing the ocean, that okay, big, large. Okay, I get that. But you can draw a line from a perfectly straight line from Easter Island through Machu Picchu, through the Great Pyramid of Egypt, and end at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. They're on the same line, the same exact line. Now, that's when you have to step back. Yeah, okay, great megalithic structures, amazing, but why are they on the same line? That's something that I think archaeologists and biologists, anthropologists, they have a hard time explaining that. They can say man was just smart. They figured out how to move these big blocks of stone and how to carve, but they can't explain why they're all on the same line.
That's right, they can't. And that's what makes it so cool.
Now, does that push the ancient alien theory forward? I don't know, but it seems to me that somebody was communicating in a transoceanic sense through these cultures over time, when clearly they shouldn't have had that ability. And that includes Easter Island, which is one of the most remote places on the planet.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are lots of places in the ancient world where similar symbols seem to pop up around the world. Similar types of building and construction seem to happen. There are these big leaps in technology. And, there are a lot of unknowns about how some of these cultures kind of jump-started. There's really compelling ideas about, how all of that happened. For me, I'm kind of like fascinated by how incredible ancient cultures are. And so sometimes I feel like the ancient alien thing kind of undercuts how totally cool and badass and inventive people can be. And so there are instances where I think that even though it's sort of difficult to wrap your head around, there are instances where people just did really wild, difficult, strange things, and that's kind of what's amazing about humanity. But if I was in a floor fight with somebody saying, how do you explain X, Y, or Z about some of these ancient cultures, there's no question that there are big gaps in what we know, and so there's a lot of room to argue there. And that's what makes it cool. That's what makes these questions so interesting.
Now, when we come back after this next break, I want to explore this a little bit further. Plus, you're in Egypt right now. So I do actually want to talk about this. But something was released today. There was a press release, and you probably haven't seen it. So let me tell you about it. They found in Turkey, in a tomb, of a toy. It's 5,000 years old, okay? We're talking about 3,000 BC, a four-wheeled chariot. Now, that's where you got to kind of pump the brakes here on all of this and just go, wait a minute. And you look at this toy, and it is what it is. It's a four-wheeled toy chariot. Now, not two wheels. No, just wheels in right? And you look at it and you're like, that's about as modern as anything gets, but it's 5,000 years old. And we have to stop and say to ourselves, are we really being told the truth about where we came from and where the knowledge is? So those are the discoveries to me that are fascinating, and you wonder how these upright civilizations came to be so early.
Big time. And there are all sorts of totally mind-bending mysteries when it comes to how they discovered a lot of their engineering. I mean, you know, there are some like if you sort of look at a graph of how these civilizations emerge, you've kind of got for thousands of years people not doing much of anything and kind of, you know, scrubbing around at ground level, just kind of trying to survive. And then you see this huge spike where suddenly, I mean, look at Egypt. You know, they're building they're pulling off engineering and monumental structures that we'd have a hard time building today.
Yeah, totally.
You know, I mean, huge leaps in technology.
Okay, we're going to head towards a break. Before we do, look at what I just sent you.
I will.
No, look at it right now. It's right there.
I'm going to the computer. It's happening.
Oh, okay. Look at that.
I'm looking.
That is 5,000 years old.
It's crazy.
That's nuts. That's nuts. Let's take a break right. I hope I just stopped Josh in his tracks right there. That is pretty interesting, and I just need help getting an explanation. That is just fascinating to look at. Our guest tonight, Josh Gates. That's right, host of Expedition Unknown. He's live from Luxor, Egypt. This is Fade to Black. I'll be right back.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously. Go Beckley Tappy.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Hi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, it's Josh Gates of Expedition Unknown, live from Luxor, Egypt. And I'm just going to let the cat out of the bag just a little bit. Come and hang out with us also this Saturday over on Coast to Coast. We're going to have Josh over there for part 2. And we'll take things a little bit further over on Coast to Coast. And thank you, Josh, for finding the time in your schedule over there, shooting and production, to come and hang out with us over here in the States.
Are you kidding me, man? I'm thrilled to be here.
Man, so cool. Now, let's get back to this ancient alien discussion and this series in Hunt for Extraterrestrials, because the ancient alien series really has done a lot to push this question forward to people that are not in the UFO circles, right? They're not, they just, yeah, you know, and it's really cool. The question is now out there. But for you, now that you've done some due diligence here, what's the best evidence for you that ancient aliens may have influenced us?
Well, again, this is the area that I think, the most sort of stick in the mud skeptic about. And so it's the one, you know, I really came out of this show believing there's life out there in the universe. And I think in some ways, you know, we can talk about this in a bit, but I met some eyewitnesses who'd had experiences that really challenged what I thought I believed. The ancient alien stuff is tough for me because I really do, as someone who went to school for archaeology and who has just such an interest in early civilizations, there is a part of me that struggles with these gaps in information. I think a lot of ancient alien stuff is the what if. Could this have happened? Could this be the explanation for X, Y, or Z? And it's hard to have a sort of throwdown about it because archaeologists say, well, we think that X, Y, and Z happened, and ancient alien theorists might say that something else happened. And fundamentally, everyone's sort of arguing in the margins over where the evidence doesn't really line up. And so I'm still in that kind of agnostic camp where I say, look, I love this stuff. I have no problem, you know, believing that, but I need to see, you know, irrefutable evidence. And I haven't seen that yet. There's a lot of really compelling, interesting stuff in the margins, but for me, I just want to see more. And so I think that's kind of where I, you know, come down to on the ancient alien stuff is there's awesome, compelling theories out there. I just don't think any of them are airtight yet. And that's kind of where I land on it.
Okay, well, you avoided the question really well there, Josh. So let me rephrase it and come at you again.
No, I don't think I did. I'm saying I'm not convinced.
Okay.
I'm saying I'm not convinced.
What was the one piece that made you go, okay? There's got to be one thing. There has to be.
I think I'm kind of perplexed by the fact that there are some symbols and leaps in technology that seem to happen around the world in different cultures that have no contact with each other. You know, there is these symbols on Easter Island that you see carved are very similar to symbols that you see carved around the Nazca culture in South America. They're similar to symbols you see in parts of the early civilizations in the Middle East.
In Pakistan.
And you could kind of say... Yeah, you could kind of say, oh, well, that's just a coincidence, and those things just kind of popped up at the same time. And you know, but for me, the fact that you have people who seemingly do not have the ability to produce some of the technology that gets made, and then suddenly there are these massive leaps in civilization, certainly makes you kind of go, wow, how did that happen? How did they get it together to do that? But at the same time, people do extraordinary things. So that's where I kind of, end up on that scale.
Where I'm probably the most fascinated in is this, and I'll ask you this question. When you go back to all of, we go back 5,000 years and 4,000 years, and you look at all of the cultures around the world, all of the religions, and where the one basic fundamental that rings true with all of them is they were taught from somebody that came from the stars, right? God, angels, different, and all of it came from there. When at that point, I'm not sure that kind of science fiction was something that was talked about or thought about, but yet this knowledge came from the stars, and it's from every culture. It doesn't matter where you go to, and that is interesting. They chose to call them gods or angels because they didn't have a choice with the civilization around them. You got to tell them it's God. You can't tell them it's aliens, right? So, but that's the part where I just kind of step back and go, there's something more to this here. They are talking about their own experiences, and their own experiences were just that they were taught their knowledge came from up there. It didn't come from their friends.
Yeah, I mean, look, another way of looking at that, of course, is that all civilizations share this one reality, which is that life comes from up there. I mean, almost every civilization starts out worshiping the sun, right? Because they need it, and they need that rain, and they need the sun, and they live and die by the heavens. And so, to some extent, we are all, I think, in these early civilizations kind of, anchored to the stars. And just like today, the stars are really mysterious. If you are living in I can't even get my head there, but like imagine living in an age where you don't even know what stars are, don't know the planets. Just like at night, somehow the sky turns into this crazy twinkling thing. I mean, that's like mind blowing, right? I could certainly get my head around the idea that all of these civilizations are just completely transfixed by this thing, because when it doesn't rain or when the sun scorches the earth and kills your crops, it's over, So, I mean, that part of it makes sense to me. But it is also true that you read about their connections to these deities and these things that come down from the heavens. And then you get into this debate of like, well, wait, is this an allegory? Is this something that we're supposed to interpret? Or are they having some sort of actual experience here? And that's where the fun lies, because, if they're having real experiences, then what are we talking about here?
Well, now, you're in Egypt and you are around all of this oldness, and you go to these different, whether it's, the Osiris temple, whether you're in Edfu or Abydos, it doesn't matter where you go, Luxor, for example, or the Giza Plateau, and you look around, that was done before the fall of the civilizations. They started off that great. The best art is the oldest art. The best carvings, the best sculpture, the best of everything is the oldest, and then it degraded over time. So how does a culture rise out of the desert from Stone Age, and then the next day start this and metallurgy and everything else that came into play so quickly? How does that transition happen?
I mean, no question. I was at the pyramids 2 days ago, and I always joke with my crew, because we travel all over the world. This is like a slight diversion, but it's stay with me.
Okay.
We always joke like what are the things in the world that are like postcard things that you've seen images of your whole life, that when you get up in front of them, they either disappoint or they exceed your expectations. So like for me, one of the great sort of disappointing things is the Hollywood sign. Everyone sees the Hollywood sign in movies. It looks enormous. And then when you kind of go to LA and you say, where's the Hollywood sign? And someone goes, oh, it's up there on that hill. And you sort of squint and you see it up there and you're like, wait, that's it? And you're like, yeah, so certain things that are really faint, like the Mona Lisa is really small in real life. So when you finally get in front of the Mona Lisa, it's not this gigantic oil painting that you kind of picture. It's this very small painting behind, feet of bulletproof glass.
Right.
And it's kind of a letdown. I think the pyramids are the ultimate thing that doesn't disappoint. They're bigger than you think they are. They're grander than you think they are. When you see them from afar, you go, oh man, that thing looks huge. And as you walk closer and closer and closer, they just get bigger and bigger until you realize that each individual block in some cases is taller than a person. I mean, they're gigantic.
Right.
And, I was there a few days ago and looking at the Great Pyramid of Khufu, the main one there on the Giza Plateau. The engineering of that pyramid is so precise that from end to end, along the square, along the base, it's only off, mathematically incorrect in terms of its alignment by a matter of centimeters.
Right.
I mean, it's almost perfect. It's something that if we hired the Army Corps of Engineers to build today, they would struggle and have to really put some brain power and modern engineering into getting something to be so precise. So the question is really valid. It's like, how on earth did you do this? And some people say, well, there are examples. There's a thing called the Bent Pyramid, which is a pyramid in a place called Dashur in Egypt that they kind of messed up, about halfway up. The angle changes. It looks like kind of a screw-up pyramid. But it's really one of the only examples of that. And so there are these these quantum leaps in technology where they kind of seem like it, without too much fumbling, they kind of make this enormous leap in technology. And look, no question, it's extraordinary. They did things then that sculpture is a big example. I mean, they carved things out of red granite, really difficult material to carve that we could not carve today. There's not an artist alive today that could carve some of the stuff that these people made 4,000, 5,000 years ago, which is insane.
Yeah, when you look at a piece of granite, red granite, and you go up and you knock on it with your knuckles, and you realize this stuff is this is the real deal stuff, man.
Right.
And then you look at the carving, and you are told, well, they did it with chicken bones. No, they didn't. Right? They did not. And it's before the Bronze Age, right? Or during the Bronze Age. It's an impossibility. So I don't know. There's some genius that is involved there. Have you been to Aswan?
No, I haven't yet, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, as you know, they've got 150-foot long obelisk that is carved there, right? It weighs like 1,200 tons. It's crazy. They never got it out, but it's there. Now, it's half a football field long. It weighs 1,200 tons, and it's carved. Okay, somehow they carved it great, but they were planning on moving this thing at one point, right?
Right. I mean, that's what's insane. I was looking at here in Luxor. We were at the Temple of Karnak, which is this extraordinary temple complex here. And one of the women that we're studying in this show, Hatshepsut, who was this really mighty queen.
She was badass.
She was a pharaoh, really.
Yeah, she was badass. She was badass.
Yeah, total badass. And she had these twin obelisks that she erected. One of them fell over. The other one is still standing. And these are two of the the one that's still standing is one of, if not the tallest standing ancient obelisk. And it's over 100 feet tall. And you stand there and you stare at it and you look up and you think, wait, how did they do this? And they go, well, pulleys and like this really primitive rope they would have used and this and that. And you just kind of go, if you gave me $1 million, I couldn't lift this thing off the ground with all of the resources. I would blow it. I would drop it. I would destroy it. There's no way that I could figure that out.
No.
And the fact that they got this thing up and standing and that it's still standing thousands of years later is, it's insane.
Now, the concept of now as you stand in Giza and you're looking at the pyramid that they allegedly was built in 2650 BC. Okay, I say allegedly because I don't subscribe to that thought. Do you think there is a possibility? Remember, you said Khufu. There is nothing on that pyramid that says Khufu. There's a script above the king's chamber, right? Up above it, that they call it the graffiti, and it says Khufu. Well, that's a forgery. So but if you were Khufu, right? If you were Josh Gates, you built that. Isn't your name
Pharaoh Josh?
Right. Isn't your name carved in stone somewhere?
all over the place, in neon letters.
In neon letters,
right?
So I think that they inherited those. Do you think that there's a possibility that they simply, that the Egyptians did not build them, that another culture did, and they, when the dynastic period started, well, they just inherited those things, and that's why there is nothing that says Khufu there, or Menkaure, or whatever else you want to.
Right. I mean, look, it's an awesome idea. But the thing about the Egyptians, I was joking with somebody here yesterday. It's like the Egyptians invented bureaucracy, right? They invented paper for the sole purpose of just recording, bills and ledgers and all these kind of things. So, the Egyptians left us a lot of compelling information about their culture, right? So we know that they were obsessed with death. We know they were obsessed with this idea that in order to get into the afterlife, you had to do these really, really complex things. You had to build these monuments. You had to protect your mummy. You had to you had to embalm yourself and put all these things with you for this journey. So we know that they built a lot of these crazy things that they built as part of this kind of obsession with death and with the afterlife. You are right, though, that the pyramids have a kind of mysteriousness to them, not just because of their shape and their engineering and their size, but you're right. There is not a lot of inscriptions inside that Great Pyramid, and they ultimately abandoned making pyramids. Some would say it was too much work to continue making these things, and so they switched over to tombs and stuff. But you're right. It's not plastered in hieroglyphs. For the pharaoh that it was built for. In fact, it's strangely kind of blank, and when you go inside of it, it's strangely blank for a building that is so complex.
Yeah, and when you look at all of the unbelievable carvings and artwork that is throughout the Valley of the Kings, well, there you go. That's what they did to celebrate the afterlife and the life of these pharaohs and kings, queens, and children. It's all there. But the greatest of the greatest is a blank slate. And I have difficulty with that. I don't understand why. Where was I? I was actually going somewhere next with that. Which is this. There is, we know about the Rosetta Stone, and between the Sphinx paws is that stone that is there. But there is an inventory stone on the Giza Plateau that right now is encased in a steel cage, and it is sealed from the public. That stone was carved by Khufu, and it's an inventory. That's what it is. That's what's on there. And in that, he says he is there to repair the pyramids. He doesn't say he's there to build them, but they can't destroy this stone. It's huge, too, by the way. It's like, it's 8 feet tall. It's 2 feet thick. It's granite. But they keep that from the public, and it's sealed up in a steel box. And again, it makes me wonder why they are trying to hide our history. Is there something that they know that they don't want us to know because it is going to change the paradigm of Egyptologists and our very own history of where we got our start? What do you think about that? Why would they hide that stone from us? Have you seen it? Have you seen the steel box that it sits in?
I haven't seen it. I know what you're talking about, the inventory stela or the inventory stone,
right?
And which I think they found there. I was like mid 1800s or something. It was originally discovered.
That's right.
But it is true that well, first of all, I don't have an answer to the question. I don't know why they would hide that, and that to me becomes part of the issue with some of the ancient alien stuff. Is I kind of struggle to go, well, what's the point of keeping this a secret? I mean, does it really make anything less cool if Khufu didn't build the pyramid? I mean, it doesn't really hurt Egyptian, history or tourism or any. I mean, to me, that's like incredible. Why wouldn't you announce that? So that question to me is one I don't really have an answer for. But it is true that even we were at the Sphinx a few days ago filming, and there's so much they don't really understand about the Sphinx. And they say, well, we think the face is maybe the face of Khufu because it's sort of right in front of his pyramid and leads up there, and it's from around the same time period, people think. But it's all kind of conjecture. Like, it's a very strange sculpture that people really don't understand. And so there is a lot about this stuff, whether you're a skeptic or not, that simply is not known. And there's no question that when it comes to Khufu, when it comes to the pyramid, when it comes to the Sphinx, there's a lot of blank spaces that archaeologists have to kind of fill in to make it all fit together.
When you does the Sphinx and the age of everything around there, does it match to you? I mean, I'm talking about your eyeballs. Are you looking at something that is consistent, or do you think that maybe it's true that the Sphinx was built, 7, 8, 9,000 years prior to its current dating?
I kind of struggle to think that something could be that the Sphinx could be that much older than what's around it. I mean, most of the Sphinx is carved out of bedrock. It's sort of carved out of the stone that's sitting right there.
The limestone.
So the one thing about it, the limestone bedrock that's there, it's carved right out of that, and so you can sort of see how it connects to the things around it. And so to me, the idea that that's 7,000-8,000 years older than it's meant to be strains me a little bit to kind of put that together. No, I mean, look, the materials that everything is built out of is right for the period. We know that they were the way that they're quarrying this material is clear to us. The way they're forming these structures is clear. It's the scope and scale of it and engineering of it all, especially when it comes to the pyramid, that really kind of boggles the mind. In terms of the rest of it, in terms of the sort of dating of the rest of it, or the technology in the structures that they're using, that all kind of fits. But when you go inside the Great Pyramid, for instance, and you see the vaulting and the ceiling of how it's all dispersing pressure and keeping, these chambers from collapsing in on themselves, I mean, nothing looks more like an alien spaceship than the inside of the Great Pyramid.
Yeah, no doubt.
It really looks like something that you could not imagine people building today, let alone, 5,000, 4,000 years ago.
I'm so glad that you touched upon this, because you can look at the carvings, you can look at the Ramses statue in the face and go, wow, that's amazing. How did they do that? But I want to back it up one step. It's the quarrying right there. Now we have to talk about chopping these blocks out of a quarry, 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 tons at a whack, and then transporting those 500 miles at 3000 BC, right? 2600 BC, right, when they did not have steel. They did not have steel. They had wood and maybe stone hammers and hemp ropes. They didn't have trees. They didn't have that stuff to roll, They didn't have barges. So that's where I have to just stop and go, wait a minute. I need somebody really to explain this to me, because your version of the story is not making sense to me. I think for me, the one part of all that's like the thing that we always kind of discount is the power of masses of people. I mean, the number of human bodies involved in working with this stuff is probably on a magnitude that we can't even really get our heads around. I mean, there is a kind of record of them being moved and quarried and moved, up and down the Nile. I mean, in some of the mortuary temples, you see these inscriptions and these hieroglyphs that show these huge stone blocks and obelisks. In some cases, like a Hatshepsut's obelisk, we see it lashed to a boat, and we see people moving it. And then your head kind of explodes thinking about how could something that weighs hundreds of tons, even be moved to a boat, let alone be put onto a boat and floated up a river. Seeing these obelisks and seeing these blocks in person, it totally strains my mind to understand it. But there is kind of a record of it happening. It's just something that, I would love to see somebody try to do it today. I would love to see somebody take one of these granite, blocks that was used to make one of these monumental statues of Ramses, quarry it from where it was meant to be quarried, put it on a barge using ancient technology, and get it up the Nile. I think it would probably not even make it down to the water before, I know.
Look, before it sank into the sand.
Think about the displacement that you would need on a barge for a 50-ton block that wouldn't sink. Now we're talking about ancient history here, not modern times. What kind of boat did they have that would not sink with a 100-ton, 50-ton block in it? Just like you said earlier, 100-foot obelisk. Now we're talking about a 100-foot boat minimum with the displacement to handle, 50, 100 tons of granite in one whack. I don't know. I need somebody to explain it to me.
No, it's really interesting that you bring it up. I was staring, literally yesterday, I was staring at Hatshepsut's mortuary temple. I was staring at this inscription, this wall that shows her obelisk being moved down the Nile, and you see it on its side. It's clearly her obelisk. You can see what it's meant to be, and it's sitting on top of this rectangle, and it's sitting on top of this rectangle that's meant to be a boat or a barge, and then beneath that you see people rowing and stuff, and you look at it and you go, I don't get it. Not good enough. I need to see more. Give me a 3-dimensional image. What does this thing look like? It's totally crazy.
Yeah, let's take a break right here, Josh. And when we come back, I actually want to have fun. We'll take a little bit of a break off of this because I want to talk about some of the favorite things that you have done, your favorite episodes, things that have blown your mind, and we'll take a trip down memory lane. Okay, how does that sound?
Sounds great to me. Let's do it.
Josh Gates, live from Luxor. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal God, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
Hello, Fadernauts. This is Jimmy Church, and I'm introducing New Pharma, a company whose products are based on science. Human function based on the endocannabinoid system, or ECS. New Pharma firmly believes in this science, and their research indicates that support of the ECS provides the beneficial effects for a healthy lifestyle. New Pharma's science includes relief capsules for pain relief, sleep capsules, which are natural support for occasional sleeplessness. Foundation is support for your ECS, and Fit capsules support your active lifestyle. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2B for a 33% discount on all of their products. Or visit newpharma.com for all of the knowledge on the science. That's GNUpharma.com. Go Beckley Tappy. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our guest, Josh Gates, Expedition Unknown. He's live with us from Luxor, Egypt. Fascinating conversation tonight. And, Josh, I wanted to go to some of your favorite experiences and stuff. But before I get there, I wanted to read this to you. This was just released. And I'll send it to you, by the way, and you can check it out. But it's a Danish explorer from 1737. His name is Frederick Norden, Norden, and he was an explorer. Went out and made maps of Giza, and observation and drawings of everything around him in Egypt, right? Monuments and architecture and installation, and he mapped everything. So he does this map of Giza, and are you ready for this? It's got 4 pyramids, 4 in a row, and this was his description of the Giza Plateau. Now check this out. This is right there on the map. He says the principal pyramids are to the east, southeast of Giza. There are 4 of them that deserve the greatest attention of the curious. For though we see 7 or 8 others in the neighborhood, they are nothing in comparison to the former. The 2 most northerly pyramids are the greatest and have 500 feet perpendicular height. The 2 others are much less, but have some features which on occasion must be examined and admired. Now, he goes on to the 4th pyramid. I'm going to go forward here. He says, which seems to have served as a pedestal. He's talking about the 4th pyramid. The 4th pyramid has been made upwards above the middle of a stone more black than common granite, and at least as hard. Its summit is of a yellowish stone. I shall speak elsewhere of its top, which terminates in a cube. It is, moreover, situated out of line of the others, being more to the west. It makes a series with the other 3.
Crazy.
Now, yeah, isn't that nuts? And you look at the map, and it's you know, it's got everything here, the Sphinx, and it's 1737. Yeah,
that's wild. I've never heard that account before.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you right after the show tonight. But it's a fascinating map to look at. Okay, let's. You're a big guy. How tall are you?
6'2".
How and what's your weight? You're a big dude. Tell us.
Big dude. I don't know. 240.
240.
Probably.
Okay. I don't think anything intimidates you, right?
I don't know. Maybe.
Right. Exactly. Good answer. That's a good answer. What was the one time where Josh Gates was scared?
The one time? You're giving me a lot of credit here.
Okay. Good.
No, I mean, look, the whole premise of Expedition Unknown and of Destination Truth is really to go out into the unknown and investigate these stories. And this show, anyone who's ever worked on this show will tell you, it's not faked. It's not pre-produced. We don't know what's going to happen. You know, I mean, look, I make sure I've got a visa to go to the country I'm going to. If I want to interview an expert, we make sure to meet that person ahead of time and make sure they're going to be there that day. But when we go into the jungles or we go into these tombs or these, places that we go, we genuinely don't know what's going to happen. So there have been a ton of instances over the last, 10 years of doing this where things have completely gone in ways I never thought they were going to go. We've had all sorts of crazy mishaps. I mean, I think for me, one of the most memorable that I always remember is we had this mishap in Romania where I was flying in an old plane, and the roof ripped off the plane during flight. This was this old Russian Soviet biplane, and I was sitting up in the cockpit with the captain, and the rest of the crew was in the back of the plane. It's a pretty big plane, actually. And then suddenly I was outdoors, which, that's the sign of a bad flight, right? If you're like in a plane and then suddenly you're like, oh, I'm outside, that's not good.
Oh, man. Yeah, I would, I want to say something really colorful here. I can't. We're live on the radio, but it was one of those moments, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. I mean, not good. It was terrifying, and we've had all sorts of, wildlife run-ins and really close calls with snakes and things like that. In fact, in an episode that we filmed for this current season that hasn't aired yet, I was sitting in a jungle talking to an archaeologist. We were sitting on the step of a pyramid in the jungles of Guatemala. And I'm sitting there talking to him, and we're, just chatting along. And my camera guy, thank God, just screams out, "Snake, snake!" And there is a fertilance, which is a really aggressive, dangerous snake. You were in Panama; they have them there.
Oh yeah.
They're famous down there. There was and they're most snakes are not aggressive. They even the really dangerous ones. It's pretty rare for them to kind of come at you. Fertilances are these weird snakes that want to throw down and are often will sort of chase you down in a way.
Right.
And this snake was cruising down the stairs of this pyramid right toward me and this guy, just pissed off that we were in its it was probably living somewhere up on those stairs.
Right.
And jumped up and jumped out of the way right as this thing was getting to us. So there've been a lot of moments over the years on the show that have been really shocking and surprising, and we've certainly had a lot of close calls.
I've got a question here on Twitter. They want to know if you've ever had a chemical or other type of experience out there. Some hallucinogenic, maybe ayahuasca or anything like that in the jungles.
No, we've talked about it a number of times. There have been a couple of cultures where that's been a part of the story. Even the Nazca people in Peru, there's a lot of evidence that they may have used hallucinogens. But we've never done it, I mean, one of the reasons we've never done it is it's hard to do on television. You're talking about taking some pretty heavy drugs. But the other reason is that, ayahuasca in particular, it's a pretty debilitating experience from what I understand for, you're talking about 12, 16 hours of kind of going through this thing.
Right.
And on a television production, it's like, people literally who take this stuff, they're just totally debilitated. I mean, you read stories about people throwing up all over themselves, going to the bathroom all over themselves. You know? So it's just something that we've never really been able to do. It's sensitive stuff to kind of do that in a television landscape and have a network that has advertisers, and it looks like you're promoting drug use a bit. So it's always been something that's been hard for us to approach.
Right.
It's also though something that is totally integral to a lot of these cultures. And, it's not some party drug that people are doing. It's something that is a big part of the history of these cultures. I'm certainly open to it. It's something I've always wanted to, especially those kind of medicinal kind of ancient things like ayahuasca. I would love to understand that experience. I just haven't done it yet. So stay tuned. Maybe soon. Maybe in my next series, I'll just be going around the world taking drugs.
Yeah, I know. I'm in the same boat. I haven't done it, and the curiosity is there. My paranoia is, what if I didn't come back? Right? That's my.
Of course,
that's
right?
my
That's
big
like or that you're 5 minutes in and instead of having this magical experience where you find your spirit animal, you're covered in tarantulas.
Right. For the rest of your life. Right. Yeah.
For the rest of your life, you're covered in tarantulas. Exactly.
Michael wants to know, what is the craziest food that you've ever eaten?
Oh, I mean, I've eaten, there's very few things out there that I haven't tried. The worst food I've ever eaten is easy for me. There is a delicacy in the Philippines known as balut, and it is effectively an overdeveloped egg. So it's an egg that's almost a chicken. It's almost a duck. It's this fermented kind of smelling egg. And when you open it up, there are like bones and feathers and stuff inside of it. And it's the only thing that I've ever eaten in 10 years of doing this kind of stuff that I immediately threw up. You know, I mean, I have like a stomach of steel. I've been able to kind of keep everything down. But I got that balut, you know, just to the back of my throat, and my body was like, no way. This is not happening.
Was it the taste, or was it the thought of feathers?
It's all of it. It's like the taste, the smell. It's like a rotten egg, and then there's literally like bones, like part of a beak. I mean, it's awful, and it's so funny because I've met so many Filipinos over the years who've heard me say that, and they say, "Oh, you're crazy. Balut is a delicacy. It's considered an aphrodisiac." I'm like, get out of here. There is nothing sexy about you know, a rotten egg with bones and feathers in it. So that's probably the grossest thing I've eaten. I recently had we were filming an episode up in the Yukon up in Canada, and I had a drink called the sour toe cocktail, which is a shot of whiskey with a human toe in it.
No.
And yes,
no, Josh, no.
You can look it up. You can look it up.
Where's the toe come from?
That's a great question. That's a natural question. It is donated by people in the town. When they die, they donate their toes to this bar.
No.
So they have this, like, there are photos of it. If you look it up, it'll haunt your dreams. It's definitely like nightmare fuel.
That's pretty crazy. That's pretty nuts.
So they put this toe in the drink, and you have to drink the whiskey, and the toe has to touch your lips in order for it to count. And here's the worst part. There's a sign up in the bar that says that there's like $1,000 fine for swallowing the toe, which means you know that's happened.
You know, we have a huge Canadian audience, right? And I'm going to watch this pop up in Twitter right now. Somebody is actually going to say that you are telling the truth. Probably worse than that.
Somebody's going to confirm.
Yeah, somebody's going to say that they've done it. All right. Nancy, sour toe cocktail. Nancy wants to know what really happened at the ghost hunt at Masada.
You know, we had an opportunity on Destination Truth to do some unbelievable overnights in some really incredible places. That's one of the things that was the most fun about that show was getting to spend the night in places like Masada. You know, Masada is this, for people who don't know, this incredibly beautiful, it's kind of a butte. It's like this big rise out in the Judean desert in Israel. And it was the site of a standoff between Jewish zealots and the Roman army, a few thousand years ago, that ended in this mass suicide of all of these zealots on top of this big fortress in the desert. And it's a place that's really spiritual and kind of, you know, again, one of those places that has a real intense kind of energy to it. And so we spent the night up there, and it was a really intense experience. And it was also one of the most compelling pieces of thermal evidence we ever caught. We saw on our thermal imager, and it's in the program, you know, uncut, it's in there, what really looks like the outline of a person, a really anthropomorphic shape, this sort of heat signature, which appeared and then just evaporated. And you can see it on the camera. And I have to say, for me, as someone who went into a lot of those episodes kind of as like an open-minded skeptic, it made my jaw drop. I had just never seen anything like that. So it was a really amazing night, and I think if I recounted some of the most compelling evidence that we ever caught on that show, that would be one of them.
What was, besides Masada, what was the most haunted place that you have been to?
I think Chernobyl, probably.
Ooh, right.
You know, we spent the night at Chernobyl, and you know, I sort of use the word haunted in every sense of the word. You know, I mean, I'd never been to a place that is that kind of that much abandonment on that scale. I've been into abandoned buildings before, you know, on Ghost Hunters Live. They would often be in some sort of abandoned hospital or mental institution or something. This is an abandoned city. You know, this is an entire city that's abandoned. And to spend a night there and to see all of the sort of frozen in time aspect of that place was just, I mean, it was terrifying. It really was a scary place to be.
And did you get a chance to speak to any of the women that are left behind, the widows? Did you meet any of them?
We met with a few people who had been sort of survivors of the event who had moved back afterwards. Years later, they're now letting some people back into the edges of the zone of exclusion, they call it. And it's a really tragic, sad story at its core. But it's also a story of hubris, it's the story of man thinking that he can conquer nature and really learning in a very, very dramatic way that nature, is more than willing to fight back.
And Bigfoot. No, I did want to talk about Bigfoot. I'm going to back it up. How many miles have you flown? How many have you logged?
I don't even know. I mean, I can tell you this. So I fly on lots of different airlines all over the world. I just logged my millionth mile with just United Airlines.
That's crazy. That's
so
nuts.
I've flown 1 million with United, and that doesn't include lots of other airlines.
So, you get bumped up. That's good. That's good. So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Josh. Flat Earth. What is going on? Why is there any discussion at all with what I think are pretty sensible and rational people out there? What is going on with this?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, so part of it is, so first of all, this is crazy. There's no evidence to support this. And you don't even have to really work at all to understand that there's no evidence to support this. I don't know. I mean, I feel like part of it is people who really believe that, and a big part of it is people who kind of just think it's like a fun there's like some people who like the argument of it, I guess, because it's like they like being
a debater,
screamed at and yelled at by other people. Yeah,
right,
I think part of it is this weird phenomenon of like people liking to take a position that's so crazy that they can kind of dig in. But I have no idea. It's nonsense.
There are, when we have some intelligent people, whether it's professional athletes or actors or whatever, this is being discussed. And I am fascinated. I thought last year when it started to catch on, I thought it was just going to go away. It would be passé and we could roll into 2017 and start talking sensibly again. And it has not stopped. When you got to get Neil deGrasse Tyson in on the argument, right? I'm glad you're
right. Things have gone too far.
It's gone way too far. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's insanity.
So when you look out the window of an airplane, and one of the arguments that they put forward, the flat earthers out there, is that all of the glass is curved on an airplane, and it is making the horizon appear to be curved. Now, they are the conspiracy goes down to the airplane manufacturers.
Sure.
Right?
Yes, everybody's in on it.
Right. Everybody would have to be.
Right. But I feel that same way about the moon landing people. We
didn't go to the moon.
This idea that we faked the moon landing, it's like 250,000 people worked on the Apollo program. Like, you couldn't get 250,000 people to tell the same story. It's like... It's so the idea that you've got these mass conspiracies where tens or hundreds of thousands of people are all sticking to this script is just so crazy.
I don't think we went to the moon.
Come on.
Well, this is check this out. This is look, I like you. I grew up with a favorite astronaut. I was dreaming of moon bases and drawing pictures, and that's all I wanted to do. Okay? So trust me, for me to even contemplate or consider that theory, that conspiracy is insane to me. But when I went to the Smithsonian, the Aerospace Museum in Washington, D.C., And, you know, you look at Gemini, you look at Mercury, and you look at the Apollo capsule, and you look on the inside of it, and you look at a couple of levers, right?
Right. It's not very high tech.
It's not very high tech. And that kind of tripped me out. I was expecting more. But so I start to think about the technology of 1965, 67, 68, 69, 70 versus what we have today. And we are not going to the moon, and we won't go past 400 miles out. We haven't. We have not. Now we're afraid of radiation, and we don't have the technology. But back then, apparently, we did without computers. Seriously, without computers.
It's true.
That trips me out a little bit. It just makes me step back and pause. I don't want to. You know, we had some great heroes that went out there and risked their lives, but. Man, I don't know.
But what do you think? You think that none of those guys went up? You think that none of those guys went out there?
I know.
Is it Kubrick directing it in a sound stage?
I know.
Where? How far does it go?
I know, Josh, and you can slap me around. I deserve it. But you're exactly right. So when you flip it back and maybe look at the considerations that were there, that we had to stay in front of Russia. Right, we were in the space race. We're in the Cold War. We're competing worldwide. That just maybe, I'm saying maybe, that we had to fake it for our own, to save us from embarrassment. You know, and just maybe that is a possibility. That's all that I'm saying.
All right, I'm going to give you a pass on this one.
I know. I don't want to pass. I don't want to pass. Oh, you know what? I want this discussed because it like I said.
Well, here's what's going to happen. I think in the next couple of years, you're going to see a Chinese astronaut touch down on the moon. It's going to happen.
Right.
They're going to go.
Yep.
They're the next ones up, and they're going to go there, and you're going to have to eat crow. They're going to orbit the moon, and they're going to send back photos of all the stuff we left up there, and you're going to have to come on the radio and say, you know what? Josh was right. We went to the moon.
But you know the conspiracy theories that are out there, and they're all over the place. It's what you deal with. It's what I deal with.
Sure.
And when today we're pretty smart, and we have access to knowledge that we've never had before in history. It's never been quite like this. So when you look at our technology today and you think about some of our past successes and how that actually pulled off, and you look at today what we can't do that we were supposed to have been doing by now, that's what causes people to step back and ask questions. It's not
for sure.
You know.
Yeah, if you look at art, for instance, you know, we can't sculpt or paint as well today as we could during the Renaissance, right? But we also don't have the same culture. You know, we used to have this culture of apprenticeship with artists, and the way that students would learn from masters, the value of art in society, we just changed, you know, and we decided to build computers and to do different things. So just because there's technology that we lost, I think it doesn't mean that it wasn't there to begin with. You know, it's like unless you decide you're going to be laser focused on carving granite or marble or painting, then yeah, those things get lost over time because they're so hard, right? It's so difficult that unless you decide this is the thing that we value and we're going to just do this, they're going to go away. But I also don't disagree with the fact that there's a lot of things we don't understand the answers to out there, and that's why you and I have a job.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that as long as everybody continues to have an open mind, look, I'll give you an example, and I don't want to really part on a downer, but I'll give you an example. We went through 9/11, and we went through that experience of trying to ask questions. And then this Las Vegas shooting happened, and we're not getting the answers that were, but we're smarter today. And if we don't get those answers, we're going to start to write that script for you. Right? And that's what it is when it comes to Kennedy or the Gulf of Tonkin or lost history or Egypt or the pyramids. We're those conspiracies are going to stay solid until we get the real answers because we don't know the truth on any of these subjects.
And that's why it's so important for people to keep digging and finding those answers. You know, right. One of the things I love about my job is the ability to hang out with archaeologists and explorers who this is their laser focus. They are devoting their lives to understanding this history. And, you know, I was out yesterday with this Spanish team that's digging out in the baking sun here in Luxor. And, you know, I mean, look, nobody loves Indiana Jones more than me, but real archaeology is tough, non-glamorous work. I mean, these guys are in trenches digging in the sun, just moving piles of dirt, and nobody's getting rich off it, right? Their whole focus is just trying to understand the past. And so that's what I love about this is being able to hang out with these people that are, you know, really, really devoting themselves to this and finding those answers for us in a really meaningful way. So I'm hopeful that more of those questions will get answered over time. But until then, you know, I love a good mystery as much as the next person.
Be safe out there, Josh, and we'll see you in 4 short days over on Coast to Coast. Be safe, and we'll see you Saturday night.
I look forward to it. All the best.
Thank you, Josh. Josh Gates, everybody. Now, all of the info for Josh is on his website, joshuagates.com. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. And again, we'll be continuing this conversation Saturday night over on Coast to Coast. And with that, I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be right back. I'll open up the phone lines, and we'll just chat. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Thank you, Josh. Great conversation tonight. I'll be right back.
JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
So you went to dinner last night, you had your favorite pasta. Ugh. Or maybe you had a heavy, spicy meal and it left you. Ugh. Get the tea.com. Maybe you mowed down a huge steak and your plumbing is all plugged. Ugh. Get the tea.com. Our super strength tea will take care of your occasional. Ugh. It's all organic and non-GMO. Get rid of ugh. We have so many great supplements, but our super tea is number one. GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hey, can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. The holidays are coming. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at naturesyouth.com. That's naturesyouth.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. What a great conversation. Thank you, Josh Gates. Dude is cool. Hanging out in Luxor right now. He's going to be over there for a couple of weeks. Man, jealous? Yeah, just a little bit, huh? But we'll continue the conversation over on Coast to Coast this Saturday, so be sure to head on over and hang out with us. I'm looking at some of these comments really quick in Twitter I wanted to get to. Michael just said the Chinese will see the reptilian ships and reptilians, and they will hit the throttle back here before you can count to one. That's pretty interesting. And also, Mark Toronto just posted why Russia is saying they can't go to the moon presently, and that's the Van Allen radiation belt. And that actually slipped up in a NASA press conference last year. Very famous video of that. One of the spokespeople for NASA actually said, well, you know, as soon as we conquer how to get through the radiation, then we'll head back and we'll figure out how to get back to the moon and get to Mars. And it was a serious slip up, and one that was just played over and over again out there on the net. And let's see what else. Mike and Heidi just posted that he is correct. The sour toe drink exists. However, the toe was stolen last year. Oh, and somebody else just tweeted that there's a reward out for the toe from the sour toe drink, that it was stolen. So there you go. All right, let's go to the phones. I've opened up the phone lines, 323-825-5045 or 323-275-9695. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Debbie.
Hi, Debbie. How are you?
From Sacramento. Hi, Jimmy. How are you?
I'm doing good. What did you think of Mr. Gates?
Oh, I love his show. I used to watch The Destination Truth, and now I'm watching The Hunt for the Aliens, too. I can't wait for tomorrow night. It's a great show.
Yeah, it's actually pretty well done. I didn't want to give away a whole lot for those that haven't seen it, and I know that the next episodes are coming up like tomorrow night, so I didn't want to give too much of it away, but it is pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, we don't want to be spoilers for other people that are checking in, but yeah, great show. Almost as good as yours. So I was just hanging there waiting for you to follow up with him on Bigfoot, and it didn't go there. So I want to tune in on Coast Saturday night, but and I try to go to my laptop, but they don't let you dial in or click on their site to listen live. I guess you have to have a membership. Is that right?
Well, you can actually go to TalkStream Live. Go to TalkStream Live. We broadcast there live. All of the live talk shows, that's why it's called TalkStream Live, are streamed there for free. So you can just go to TalkStream Live, and when Coast starts, it'll pop up, and it'll go right there. I think we're probably number one. I wonder where we are right now. I wonder where Fade to Black is. Let's see. Hold on. That's a good question. Let's see where we are in the rankings right now. We are, we're number 4 right now. Clyde Lewis is number 1. John Batchelor's number 2. Michael Savage is 3. and Fade to Black is number 4. And we're ahead of Fox. We're ahead of Fox. That's good.
Good.
We're ahead of InfoWars.
Give it time, Jimmy. Give it time.
And we're ahead of Alex Jones. But, you know, what's really great, we're ahead of Mark Levin and Howie Carr. I'm looking at everything here. Dark Matter Radio, Dark Matter Digital, Midnight in the Desert. They're way down there. I didn't even know she's still on the air. Okay, but she is. I haven't been to TalkStream Live here probably in a couple of years. But there's KGRA coming in at number 7, but we're on KGRA 2, right now. So we should be number 1. We should be number 1. Yeah, there you go.
I wanted to let you know from our last conversation, so I checked out you back in the day with the board shorts and all that.
Oh,
you
yeah.
look like Eddie Van Halen. You were so skinny.
Well, I was doing my best to be the best Eddie Van Halen that I could be. So
yeah, that's what it reminded me of. It was hilarious. But that's all I wanted to ask you about was the Bigfoot, and I'll definitely follow up with Coach.
I will do that on Saturday. So, you know, there you go. And thank you for reminding me. Well, what I don't want to do on Saturday is repeat this show here. So we got to take Josh into the zone just a little bit further. Okay?
Great.
Thank you, Deb. Be safe out there.
Thank you, Jimmy. You too. Take care.
Take care. All right. Let's go. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hello, Jimmy Church?
Yes.
Yes, I am smoking the beans and slapping the bass.
How are you, Kendra? Everything good?
Everything's wonderful. Doing really well. And I have a very important question that you might know about Mr. Gates that I just listened to. Do you know if he's single?
No, he is married.
Oh.
I know. I'm breaking hearts right now. I'm breaking hearts. Hold on for a second.
Crash,
I've got. Was that me or you making that strange noise? Okay.
I have no idea.
I don't know. I don't know either. I don't know where that came from, and I'm looking. I don't have anything open. I don't know what caused that. That was that was pretty nuts. That was pretty nuts.
I'm hearing a third party on the phone right now.
Yeah, it's because I have somebody on hold on a couple of other lines. So, but anyway, separate phone lines, but they're on the same talkback, so you guys could actually hear each other.
Interesting.
But what I was going to say, what did you just say? You made me.
Just that I've always had a crush on him.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. I got so much email today. Please ask Josh this. I've been following. Anyway, so about that, if he was married, he married his co-star from Destination Truth, Heidi, and he married her I think 4 years ago, and they have a son. So.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
well, that's cool.
It's my job to break. Breaking hearts.
The breaks, but I have a theory that I've been thinking about. I wanted to run past you and the Fadernauts, which is, and has to do with the good versus bad alien agenda, that kind of thing. And so, as we see what's going on with the planet and just the toxification of everything. They're poisoning freaking everything, and the GMO foods and HARP and chemtrails and all of that, right? And I'm like, well, what human being would just purposely, and they're purposely doing this, is rather obvious. I mean, we have other solutions. It's so inhumane. It's inhuman, right? So, maybe, and I've never really heard this expressed by anyone in our circles that I've heard. I'm sure it's out there. But I'm like, it almost seems like they're terraforming this Earth, So maybe if the reptilian aliens are really exist and they're evil and controllers and the whole thing, maybe where they come from or the type of atmosphere they needs all the aluminum in the air and the all the strontium and all the radiation and whatever's in the chemtrails and the fluoride in the water. Maybe that's what they need to survive to live on the planet. And it feels like the Earth is being terraformed. And I'm just like, Has that ever crossed your mind, or have you heard of that sort of idea?
I've heard something similar to that they're prepping it for themselves. I don't think it's that far out of the question. And the reason
Nothing
why...
else makes sense to me.
Well, the reason why, and I want to thank you in advance for the phone call, Kendra, but the thing is this, and I say it over and over and over and over again, any intelligent being that is here traveled a long ways, which means that they more than likely are thousands, if not tens of thousands, or maybe a million years more advanced than us because they were, before us and created before us. So it's an intelligence that we don't understand. It's as simple as that. Any more than any creature on this earth that is looking at us and they are perplexed when we get into a car and drive, or if they don't understand the technology of a car. It's they don't get it. It's beyond them. Well, it would be the same thing with us and any. I would just assume that any alien life that would be here would just be way beyond anything that we understand. That's all. We couldn't wrap our head around it, and it's really that simple. So. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, Kendra. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out someday, huh?
Yeah, we all will. Thank you, Kendra. We'll see you tomorrow night on the show.
Go back later. Bye.
There what I'm talking about. Thank you, Kendra. Have a good night.
Ciao.
All right. Yeah, I'm serious, too. If you look at it that way, there isn't another way to look at it. There just isn't. There's just no way. You think our dogs and cats understand when we're changing the channel on the TV with a remote control that they know what's going on? No. It's that simple. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hi, this is Marty from Chatsworth, your biggest fan. Can you hear me okay?
I got you, Marty, but if you could, take me off the speaker.
Okay, how about now? Can you hear me okay now?
You sound like you're on a speakerphone.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me fix it right now. Shoot, sorry about that.
Okay. So what's on your mind, Marty?
Okay, how about now?
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, let me. Okay, there we go.
Now we can hear you. Okay, what's on your mind, Marty?
Okay, I just tuned into the show because I was at work about 30 minutes ago, and I heard you mention the moon landing hoax conspiracy, which is a topic that I've been interested in for I'd say about 3 or 4 years.
Right.
And I would say. I was pretty convinced for a while that it may have been hoaxed by the Americans, despite the fact that it would be very difficult to do. But then this morning, I saw some pictures from the Chinese expedition that landed the unmanned spacecraft, and a lot of the photographs I saw, they were just like the ones from the Apollo, which, for example, the holy grail of the moon landing conspiracy. That it's a hoax is the fact that there is no crater underneath the moonlander from the thrusters. Is that what's called, the thrusters?
Yeah, the engine.
Well, I didn't see one. I didn't see one under the Chinese one either. And there was no dust. It didn't seem like there was a lot of dust kicked up or anything like that. Also, a lot of the pictures that the Chinese showed that I was able to see on the Chinese pictures were there was no stars in the sky. So, and that's also another thing that's mentioned frequently with the conspiracy theorists. So it's like either Chinese faked it as well, or maybe we did go eventually. Maybe when Armstrong landed, maybe that wasn't the very first one, and maybe there were some shenanigans played with photography because we really wanted some really good photographs so we can rub it into Russians' face. But I'm starting to think that maybe we did go to the moon now.
Well,
I'm kind of swaying over to the other side of the argument.
Yeah, right. And it's easy to do. And it's good to change your mind because that means you're learning. That's all, right? That's okay.
Yeah.
But
I have an open mind.
Well, Marty,
I'm not. It's not set in stone,
Sure. Well, let me ask you this:
I haven't.
Why haven't we gone back?
Because this is my theory. Because it's going through the Van Allen belt. It's very dangerous, and it's very risky to the health of the astronauts. And they did it despite the fact that there were a lot of dangers to it. And I'm thinking they just don't want to push the envelope. Also, there is no political incentive to do it like there was in the 70s. I'm thinking because at that time it was so important to do it and to rub it into the communist face that we did it. We're ahead of you. We wanted to show them that we're kicking their butt after Sputnik, and now we just don't have that kind of incentive and all that gridlock in the Congress. That's what I'm thinking. It could be that there's something out there. There's something out there not wanting us to go back. I mean, I've seen pictures from the moon. In fact, I think that's what I was looking at. I was looking at the Chinese pictures, and there was a picture of something watching the Chinese lander out there. There may be some intelligence out there that doesn't want us to go back. That's another possibility.
There's that famous recording of I forget who it was on the moon saying, "Look, they're on the edge of the crater, lined up, looking at us."
Yes, I've heard of it.
Yeah. So let's not play around here.
My grandmother was telling me that when I was a kid in the 70s. My grandmother was telling me that when she was watching it. She didn't say those exact words, but she said something to the effect that somebody's here, and then it was cut. Is that the one? And then all of a sudden they cut the feed, right?
Yeah, they cut the feed.
Right. So my grandmother was telling me about that. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's something out there.
Yeah,
it really wouldn't surprise me at all.
Well, the question is, why didn't we go back? That's the whole thing.
It's a good question. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
When we talk about the Van Allen radiation belt, and you think about the spacesuits, those spacesuits weren't designed for radiation. The space capsule wasn't designed for that. It's basically, it's super uber thin. And so it wasn't protecting from any radiation or heat or anything else. That thing, they had to spin it, rotate it away from the sun every couple of minutes because one side would heat up. The air conditioning wouldn't keep up with it. So they were always rotating the capsule. Like when you're, a pig on a rotating.
Right. I wasn't even aware of that. That makes sense.
So there's that aspect. But the other part is we constantly talk about micrometeorites, right? That are flying out there in space. Those space capsules or the spacecraft themselves, those things were not bulletproof. Okay, there was no protection. And so now we're talking about how to design these spacecraft to get to Mars and to get through these micrometeorites and to get through the radiation and how to protect it. And they are talking about water, a foot thick of water, or different ways to protect the astronauts because it's going to be a long trip to Mars. Well, let me tell you something: 4 days, 5 days, 6 days out there exposed to radiation in space. Everything,
it's a lot.
Right? And they're out there in space suits. Material, dude. Material. It's material. It's not.
I know.
It's.
I think they. Can I say something? I think they just possibly. I don't know. I'm saying possibly. They just said, you know what? We just got to do it, and they just went out there and did it, despite the fact that it's very dangerous. I mean, look at the space station. The space station's out there every day, and it's somehow it survived all the micrometeorites. I mean, I know that's below the radiation belt, but it's able to deal with the meteorite. So somehow they survived that. So I'm thinking, I don't know, Jimmy. I'm kind of like, I don't know what to think.
I know a lot of duct tape.
I know for sure they played some shenanigans. There were some shenanigans with photography. Because there's no way in hell you can take the Hasselblad, the Hasselblad cameras that they were using. They were basically off-the-shelf units, and they were just repurposed for the. They just changed a few things. And that's it. As far as mounting goes, and that was it.
Every photograph was perfect.
Perfect. I know, that's crazy.
I know.
So I'm thinking some of the photographs may have been staged, so they can have these beautiful photographs when they come back. They can show them all over the world, and everybody can see it. Possibly. That's my new. This is how I'm thinking as of this morning. This is my newest approach to it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you asked me about it 2 days ago, I would have told you for sure that this whole thing was hoaxed. But that now, when I looked at the Chinese photographs, I mean, the Chinese could have hoaxed it as well. I don't know, because they look very similar. The landscape looks very similar. The sky looks very similar. There's no dust around the lander. There is no crater underneath the thruster, which, you would think if it lands and it turns on this powerful thruster, it would kick up tons and tons of plumes, dust. But yet they didn't have that. So and that seems to be the main argument with the moon landing conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, and none of the astronauts.
I don't know, Jimmy. I don't know.
Yeah, none of the astronauts, came back and just had some kind of catastrophic cancer.
I know.
Everybody was healthy.
Very suspicious.
Yeah, everybody was healthy.
They didn't go out there. I know.
So I mean, there's a lot.
You would think.
There's a lot of arguments for and against, and that's why man, it's so hard for me to say that, we didn't go. It's hard for me to say that because I went through the space race.
It's like, it hurts. It hurts. It's like a national pride, it really hurts.
Absolutely.
To say that. I know. It bothers me to say that. And I never wanted to say it.
Marty,
you know what? There's gonna be a day, one day, when somebody flies over the original moon landing, and they're gonna have to show us the photographs. Here it is. Either we landed or we didn't.
Well, I want to know why we can't look at it with a telescope.
There's
somebody tell me
a theory that we can't do it because it's too powerful or not powerful enough. The Hubble telescope, right? Is that what you're referring to?
Well, there's the Hubble, but how about my backyard? With a really strong telescope, the baddest telescope I can buy. Why aren't we looking at photographs of that? That's all. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. It's highly suspicious. I know.
Well,
However, we do have the reflectors. The
laser
beam reflectors are there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they could have been placed by an unmanned vehicle. So
yeah, a rover.
Hard to say.
I know. Hey, Marty, we'll see you tomorrow night.
To be honest, can I say one more thing?
Yeah, we're almost at the end. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just saying, even if we fly over and we see a moon lander and all that, it's still not a proof that we went out there, because that could have been placed there by an unmanned mission, just for posterity, for other people to see. So we'll never really know. I don't know.
I know.
My gut feeling tells me that we went there a little bit, but I have my doubts. That's all I'm going to say.
See, Marty is really debating really well both sides right now. Hey, Marty, thank you so much, man. We'll see you tomorrow night.
You're welcome. All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Great conversation right there. Yeah. I'm just saying I have issues with not being able to. We have telescopes that can look all over the place, right? But our own moon, we don't have anything powerful enough, optical, not digital, optical, that we can just go and see, hey, check it out. There's the lunar lander. There's the rover. There's tracks. Now, I understand that the Chinese flew around and mapped and photographed the Apollo, some of the Apollo sites. I get that. Okay, I'm talking about for me. Not the Chinese, me. Why can't I go and look at, one of the observatories with one of these crazy telescopes that can photograph star systems, right? Now, I don't want to hear this. Well, it's 1 pixel and it's this, and, it's only 1 pixel per meter, and therefore the resolution. You know what? No. Optical. Look through with one of those big ass telescopes in Hawaii or Chile or here in the United States, and just go and take a snapshot of the moon, of the footprints. Why can't we see that? That's all that I'm saying. All right. Now, I wanted to hit you with this because we talked about this during the show, and I did post the pictures up in Twitter of this crazy chariot in Turkey. Okay. Archaeologists say they discovered the 5,000-year-old toy chariot and a rattle while digging in Turkey, and it gives this fascinating glimpse of what children of the Bronze Age we're playing with, and it's a part of the ongoing excavations in the ancient city of Sagmetar in the southeast of Turkey. Some of the oldest settlements in the world, Sagmetar is also believed to be where Moses fled in biblical times after escaping Egypt. The digs began in the area in May 2017 and have uncovered several tombs, including this one with the toys. All right. This will conclude another episode of Fade to Black. I do want to thank Josh Gates. Fascinating conversation tonight, and we will pick up things with Josh on Saturday. All right, tomorrow night on the show, are you ready? Amelia, Eon, you ready? Karis. Right here, we're going to talk synchronicity all night long on Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster, Drew the Geek. Fady by Dale. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA The Planet. This broadcast is only copyrighted 2017 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Until tomorrow night, I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Tappy.